All right, everybody, and welcome to Hard Rock History, episode 22. We're really getting up there now. We're in the 20s now. We're above legal age, so we can smoke and we can drink, John. You understand?
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a listen. I've been listening to this guy since the 80s. I'm 59 years old right now. I had the pleasure of knowing about him through Gary Moore because I was a big Gary Moore fan, and
Okay.
and this man, incredible vocalist, some great falsetto work out of him throughout the years, and his name is John Sloman. John, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, it's a
So it's
pleasure to be.
such an honor. I mean, your resume is fantastic. I mean, you I think you need a book to be written, John.
Well, I wrote one.
Oh, I'm sorry, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I
Well,
did.
I never saw anything.
Didn't you hear about it?
No, how old is that?
Um, I'm the world's worst
Promoter?
self-publicist. Think now. 20, 20 something, a couple of years ago
Oh
anyway,
my God.
lost some kind of artifice. And it's they call it a rock memoir, don't they? Which I hate, but
Mhm.
it's kind of it's an autobiography, and
Autobiography? Yeah, yeah.
taking in all the bands I was involved in growing up as well, But it covers there's a lot in there about my time with Gary Moore, and there's a lot in there about my time with, well, without wishing to jump the gun,
Yeah.
with everybody else.
Is it still out to be bought, to be purchased?
Oh yeah, it's up on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, Amazon.
I'm going today and buy it. I'm gonna buy it today.
Okay, well, yeah, they'll print you one, and they'll get a great big truck to deliver it, because it's like a great big slab of concrete. It's a big book. But
Well,
I've done.
if you had copies, I would have bought one from you if you had any in the house.
I do, yeah, I
All
do.
right, so I'd rather give you
But
the
I've
money.
written three, by the way. I've written three books, and I'm working on a fourth.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I always like to start in the beginning. I always say, was it a musical family? Was there a certain musician? Was there a song that made you go down this road itself?
Well, yeah, music was always there, because right to like from when I was, I guess, about five, I was very close to my grandmother, and so my first memories of music are her teaching me Bing Crosby songs,
Mm,
True Love, which was it's a beautiful song with like a tricky little middle eight bit. And I was a little kid, and she would teach me that and get me to sing it with her. And a bluegrass song called Are You From Dixie,
hmm.
which I grew up thinking it was an Al Jolson song, but it wasn't. It was a bluegrass song, an old bluegrass song. Are you from Dixie? I said and all the great bluegrass players did versions of it. So that was my kind of my earliest memories of music, and then Ray Charles on the radio, and Little Stevie Wonder, and someone explained to me that he was a kid, when he did Fingertips and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And that's when a real light bulb went on, because I thought, well, he's out there, and he's 14, and I at this point I was probably 9, 8, or maybe 8, and then I got sent for piano lessons by my nan, my grandmother, and also some dance lessons. Went to like a dance school, but not a proper I shouldn't say not a proper dance school, but like a kind of I don't know, like a vaudeville kind of school. And this is in South Wales. My grandmother thought she was going to bring vaudeville back to South Wales. So they used to dress me up this is when I'm 7 that I went to this school, and they dressed me up in all sorts of insane outfits and got me to do Al Jolson songs. They got me to do
You
that.
sang Mammy?
I didn't sing Mammy, but I sang Are You From Dixie,
Okay.
thinking that it was a Jolson song. But like I say, it's an old bluegrass song. I sang some Herman's Hermits, stuff that was around at the time when I was a
Mm.
tiny kid. So we played the New Theatre, which is like a big theatre in Cardiff. Well, it's a little theatre now, but it was a big theatre then for me. That was probably when I was about 7. I did that. I did that twice. Um, and that kind of opened me up to the idea of being in front of people and performing, you know. And meanwhile, my mother had a great voice, and so did my dad. My mother was into kind of 50s love songs, and my dad was into opera.
Oh wow,
So that's probably Jose Jolin, and in my dad's case, and Mario Lanza was his absolute
wow.
hero.
Was it played
Uh,
in the house? Both things were played in the house?
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm talking, I'm from a working class family. My dad was a refuse collector, as they say in the States,
Yeah, yeah.
or garbage collector, whatever.
Hmm.
But he worked for the Cardiff Corporation, and my mum was kind of a singing waitress. She would be in the club and collecting the glasses and stuff from the tables. And the band leader would say, hey, or the manager of the club, hey, get up and, give a song. And so she would sing some of these songs like Peggy Lee
Hmm.
songs. And like I say, she had a really, really good voice, as did my dad. And my cousin, David, he came to lodge with us for a while. And I can't remember, I was so young, these things go over your head, but he came to stay with us, and he had the front room as his room. And I remember going in there one day and seeing this gigantic guitar leaning up against the wall. And I thought, what is that, an electric guitar? Because it was gigantic. And I'm this little kid. I'm probably about 9 at this point. But it was a bass guitar. It was a Fender Precision with Fender black diamond strings on. And it was about as big as me at the time,
Hmm.
And David was playing with a guy called Shakin' Stevens at the time, who he was like the Wales's Elvis. And in the 80s, he had a second act, if you like, Shakin' Stevens, as like a rockabilly styled pop guy. So it would always be so it would always be harking back to those Elvis records, and rockabilly. But it was pop, and he was kind of miscast in that way, Shakin' Stevens, because really he was quite a rootsy artist. Anyway, my cousin played with him. And the earliest memory I have of going to a gig is going round the back of where we used to live by the gasworks, really salubrious setting. And David was playing with his then band, and they were called. Oh God, it'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, they were playing on a flatbed truck with a generator. Just thought, wow, that I was blown away by that. So yeah, music was always there, and also Cardiff being a seaport, by the way, that has to be said. People talk about Liverpool, that being a seaport, and of course you've got in the States, you've got New York and places like that,
Yeah.
and all the music is coming in from all over the world, and that's what it was like here. We have the valleys, the Welsh valleys, of course, where they have all the male voice choirs. Um, and people think when I say I'm from Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, they automatically expect me to sing Nyfan, which is this beautiful old folk song sung by male voice choirs. But really, here it's a very rootsy city.
Hmm.
It's soul, rhythm and blues, reggae as well,
Oh wow.
and yeah, and literally everything. People are very surprised when they come here, because I went to school with every nationality in my primary school, and I
And,
just thought everywhere was the same.
and around your time was, because the Beatles and the Stones were coming up, was it gigantic in Cardiff also, that their
Oh,
sensation?
absolutely. Oh, God, yeah. I
Yeah.
can remember I used to stay with my aunt and uncle, and that's where my grandmother, she lived with them. And so I used to stay over in the docks area of Cardiff. And I remember one of my earliest memories of hearing that there was this band or group, as people called them then, called the Beatles,
Hmm.
was my aunt and uncle at breakfast one morning. They had been to some kind of function the night before at one of the bars in the docks area, and there was a band playing Beatles songs, and they were wearing wigs. They were wearing Beatles wigs, and I thought, it was the first time I'd heard, what is this? What do you
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
wearing wigs? And they had one. They brought one back from this place. They must have been giving them out as a promotion.
Hmm.
I'm guessing maybe this was like a syndicated Beatles thing, to get people out in the provinces, into the Beatles. And so they had one of these Beatles wigs, which were absolutely bloody awful. Basically, it was a skull cap with some black wool
Yeah.
knitted in, sewn into the skull cap. It looked absolutely, totally unconvincing. So I can't imagine Paul McCartney having a haircut like that.
Could you imagine how much money those things are now if you actually had one?
Well, yeah, we did have my brother Rob, who was 3 years younger than me, he had one of those Beatles guitars with, the plastic guitars,
Yes.
with the four faces on.
With their images on it, yes.
Yeah, we had, obviously they're up on wherever eBay now, and I'm sure they're a fortune. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I remember that, and it probably had like one string on it after 2 days in the house.
So you got drawn to with your grandma with the playing piano. Was that it? You were gonna be a guitar
Yeah.
player or
No, I was a terrible student though. I went. The thing is, I'd been to school that day, and and now I've got to go to this lady for piano lessons. And I thought, really? Do I have to do this? I loved music,
hmm
but I didn't want to do all the, you know,
the work?
I'm sat at the piano, by the way. I didn't want to do all that and
Yeah.
endless scales and everything. I thought, well, I just want to learn music. I get there, and there'd always be a girl, probably like late teens, who was being taught by the same lady. And I only ever saw the back of this girl sat at the piano stool with the teacher. I remember she had like one of these, like women gathered their hair up at the back in those days, and they'd have like a big kind of thing holding it in place, quite elegant. And I'd be sat there like this 8-year old waiting for my lesson, and they would play. I think it's Tchaikovsky, and I can't remember, but it's bam bam bam, bam bam bam, bam bam bam, bam bam bam, bam bam, and they would play it as a duet. And the hairs on the back of my neck would be going up. I think that's the shit I want to learn, you
Mm.
know. And but unfortunately, I
Oh,
had to
you
do
got to
that a
start. You got
long
to start
time.
somewhere.
Well, I know, but there you are, you see, and that's my problem because I've got a good ear, and that was my downfall as a student. Because my mother was the same, because I would be in the room going, because she had an old piano that she'd had as a kid,
Hmm.
and it had survived. Now she's got it 20 years later. It's my piano. There were some keys missing, some keys made like a noise that I never quite figured out what was wrong with it. But I'd be practicing away, and then she'd come in the room and she would just start playing some Tchaikovsky or something, and she used to call it vamping.
Hmm.
And I know vamping is means something totally different as well in other cultures, but it would just be blum 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 blum, and I'd be saying, "Who taught you that?" "Oh, it's just called vamping. You can just learn it by ear." So she didn't even know anything about
Right.
playing instruments, but she could just do it. So I probably got it from my mother. But the thing is, it got in the way of me really getting my head down and learn. Like I still don't know. I still don't know about reading music.
Mm.
I really don't. I mean, here we go. This is a piano chord dictionary. This was given to me in 1982 by a very exasperated Neil Murray. Okay. And recently, I we were in touch, and I said, "Hey Neil, I dragged out that chord dictionary of yours the other day. I thought, hey, let's look at some of these, find out what some of these chords are I've been playing for the last 50 years, And so there it is. To this day, I will be working with someone that I would regard as a great musician. I just say, what's this chord? What's that? And they'll tell me, but I'll forget instantly. I'm kind of not wired up that way,
So
you
your
know.
muscle memory is more in the moment type of thing for you?
Yeah, I think so. Plus, I really I love the mystery of music. A friend of mine who's a great musician described Jeff Beck as always picking up the guitar as if he'd never played it before.
Because
And
everything's always different.
I love that description,
Yeah, yeah.
because I think that's how Jeff Beck was, that he never picked it up and just played his usual lick, So it's good sometimes to just play something absolutely out there that okay, let's see where this goes. That's what I used to do. And some people that I worked with, they realized that that's what I was about. I was always trying, just the whole mystery of it. But of course, record companies get a bit nervous. I'm talking back in the day now, of
Yeah.
course. And bands for sure. They like to no, you need to stay within these lines. We don't want you going.
Especially live. Did you stick to, let's say, we say here, did you stick to the script of playing, or did you go off a little too when you were live itself? Because I mean, like,
Yeah, I did,
you have a set
unfortunately.
list, you have 7 to 10 songs, 7 to 15 songs, or whatever,
Yeah.
and you got to play. So, like, the first night, maybe you can get away with it, but as time goes on, they want you to be locked in, as they say, you
Oh
know?
yeah, I mean, when I was when I was in those bands, the more high profile things, although I did go off script with some of them, not with Gary, but with Heap, definitely I did, and and I know, and I think Ken was right to be pissed off about it. But again, that was I just wanted to improvise. So in my my musicality really is a jazz to be a jazz singer. That's the truth. That's my true
Mm.
musical calling, if you like.
And you
But I
and you
but I
went to
but I
and you went
don't
to a
play
rock
jazz.
genre.
Yeah, but I don't play jazz. So that's where I'm thinking. That I like the fact that jazz singers can just riff, whereas a lot of rock singers, they've got the high E that they hit in falsetto, which I've done a lot of.
Yes.
But if you do anything in between, those melismas that a lot of the soul singers do, people get a little worried. And I remember I did a TV thing with Gary in Dortmund in Germany, and we did 2 nights at the Westfalenhalle, which is this gigantic arena. This is in 1983, and oh no, beg your pardon, late 1982. And there were all sorts of people on. Chicago was playing on the bill. The bands of the time. Loverboy. Do you remember them?
Of course.
Uh,
I just saw them last summer.
and the flock of seagulls. And they
Wow.
all of us were just crammed into this arena for 2 nights. But anyway, there was this thing where Gary and me it was a song called "Rocking Every Night."
Rocking every night.
There was this point where
Down
Gary and I
now,
said,
dun
"I'll be
dun.
rocking
Down
and
now, yeah.
rolling." Yeah,
Rocking and roll. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, one
That's the
night,
well. That's the opening song,
right,
and
and one,
you're singing it.
yeah, but where I'm on it's where is the bit where I sing on my own, and I did get a bit carried away on this TV thing, in Dortmund. And afterwards, Neil Murray, I don't know whether you ever interviewed Neil.
Not
He's
yet.
a
Neil's writing
fantastic.
his book right now, so I'm waiting when the
Yeah, yeah,
book's
he
done.
is absolutely. That'll be good. But anyway, Neil came up to me after the gig, and he said, "John, because he's really well spoken guy, you know," and he says, "John, yes, it's good what you did, but I didn't expect an aria, you know, because I literally went off into this kind of operatic stuff, you know." Yeah, well, there you go.
All right, let's.
I hope that I've matured a little bit, you know.
So now, you were in a band called Trapper, right?
Yeah, that was when we were 16.
And how did that go from that to getting the gig with Lone Star?
Well, what happened? We were building a following because we were like 16, 17. Pino Palladino, obviously, was a world famous bass player. He was one of the guitar players in Trapper, and so we were building a following locally in Cardiff, plus in valleys as well, because in the Welsh valleys there was this amazing live circuit because the mining was happening at the time. So they had all these clubs affiliated to all the various mines around the valleys. So that was amazing. It was an amazing time, really healthy time for bands. You know, bands like Budgie, for
Hmm.
instance, came out of that circuit. They would play the Welsh valleys. Anyway, so we were building a good following locally. We had two residencies. This is when we were all working. I was an apprentice at the time. I'm like 17 by this point. We had a residency in the Moon Club 2 nights a week. Then we'd break the gear down and we'd carry it across the road at midnight to the Revolution Club, and we'd play there from midnight till 2. And that went on for about 6 months. We had two residencies. One night we were in the Moon Club, and Pino and Kevin, the other guitar player, they were late showing up for the gig. And myself and the bass player and the drummer were sat there freaking out, thinking, you know, where are they? They were at the Students' Union playing table football. So anyway, we're sat there thinking, well, we got to go on. Yeah, the manager of the club, he said, well, you know, you're late, you know, going on stage. Anyway, with that, in walk a few guys, slightly older musicians. Um, hey, you having trouble? Where's the other guys in your band? Oh, we've no idea where they are at this point, you know.
Hmm.
So anyway, this tall guy walks over and says, well, listen, I'll jam with you guys until your other guitar player turns up. Oh, great. You know, so this guy picks up Kevin's guitar, who's yet to arrive. He starts playing Kev's guitar. He's really good. You know, he's a really good player. Anyway, Kevin and Pino show up within like 5 minutes. So we went on as ourselves. But that guy that was going to jam with us, he was the guitar player with the soon to be Lone Star.
Oh,
They were at that time writing and rehearsing in a hall, a church hall in a place called Rudbury. And anyway, the following week we were playing over in the Revolution in our other residency, and these other guys show up, and they say that they're linked to Tony and the whole, you know, the whole group that were Lone Star, and they said they wanted to manage us. So they we signed a contract with those guys. We gave up our day jobs and we moved to London. Literally, like that, you know, within a month,
wow.
we moved to London. And these guys were all linked to Lone Star. They weren't Lone Star yet. They were just this band that Paul Chapman, Tony Smith, Kenny Driscoll, and etc. Were hoping to get a record deal with. Um, so then we went off to Germany, um, had our gear stolen by the bass player, the trapper. I ended up in a few bands in '76, just on the local circuit. And then come Christmas '76, I heard through the grapevine that Lone Star were going to be parting company with their original singer. Because, you know, Cardiff's quite a small place.
Uh-huh.
And one night I was at the Moon Club where I was just there with another other band, And because if you were doing music in Cardiff, you invariably ended up at the Moon Club. And I got a message anyway from someone in the club to call Steve Wood. And Steve Wood was the guy who was managing Lone Star. And I'd met Steve Wood through Trapper because Steve used to get us gigs in London, playing the Marquee Club when we were kids. So I called Steve on the way home one night from the Moon Club, and he said, "Listen, we're looking for a singer. Are you interested?" And I was surprised because a couple of years down, if you're thinking in terms of school years.
Mhm.
These are the senior guys, and Paul Chapman had been with UFO. He's already been out there. He's got a profile in the business. So I went up and I stayed with Tony and Steve in London for a couple of days that Christmas, and just hung out. And then I came and did an audition in January, but there were two singers auditioning
Oh,
on
really?
the. Oh my God! Anyone watching this that's ever auditioned? Have you ever auditioned literally with the other guy in the room?
And
Yeah.
you're both switching off singing songs, watching the other guy do it too?
What happened? We were driven out. Oh, and this other guy, he's buddies with the band, by the way. I'm the kid being drafted in from a few years down the line. He is one of their buddies that he's grown up with them. So I was there thinking, why the hell am I here?
Right.
Sure, this guy, and by the way, the guy was lovely. He's a great guy. So we go out into the countryside at a place called Little Chalfont, to a place called the Farmyard, and it's a rehearsal place owned by Trevor Mraz, who was in like a rhythm and blues jazz kind of combo called the Spinners. Anyway, so we go out there, the band are in the barn, getting ready to do the audition, and this guy, Lynn Phillips, the other singer, and me, are just sat in the farmhouse waiting to be called. And Lynn is looking at me, and I'm looking at Lynn, and I'm thinking, why am I here?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, do you know what? If I really get a move on, I can be back into town, get the train back to Wales, and I can catch last orders in the bar around the corner from where my girlfriend lived at the time. I really did think that there's no point in me being here.
Right.
So Lynn went and sang, and they had us sing the same songs. It was Johnny Be Good
Sure.
and She Said, which was, they did a great version of the Beatles, She Said. And so Lynn had gone in, and Lynn came out, and it was one of those, next, the doctor will see you now,
Now,
so I.
could you hear him too
No,
performing?
no, no. Well, kind of, because it's literally there. I'm in the
Yeah.
kitchen just drinking coffee, and I'm 19, by the way. You know, and so I got summoned over there then to do my Johnny Be Good, and She Said. So, hey, excuse the chair squeaking, by the way. And so yeah, I did it, and. And then, okay, yeah, go back to go back to the kitchen in the farmhouse. So I'm sat there with Lynn, and I really genuinely thought I should just leave right now,
Mm,
because there was a slight hostility towards me anyway,
mm.
because they wanted Lynn. Lynn was their buddy, you
The
know.
rest of the band.
Yeah, well, Tony wanted me in the band.
Okay.
The rest of them did not.
Oh, so Tonka didn't want you.
No, God, no. Oh boy, no. Jeez. Who can blame him? So, so anyway, what happened? We then get Lynn and me. We get summoned over into the barn, and so now the whole band are there. And by this time, I've experienced quite a bit in music, even though I'm 19. I've been to Germany. I've had the equipment stolen, been repatriated from Munich, and lived in London and played the pub circuit and all this stuff. So I can tell when people literally do not want me in the room with them, you know. So I was stood there with Lynn and their new manager, Abe Hock, had just taken over from Steve Wood, management of the band. So now Steve, who was manager, he's now the tour manager.
Okay.
So he is Abe, and Abe is an ex-lawyer, vice president of Swan Song Records. He's buddies with all the Zeppelin guys. This guy is you know, he's like the Fonz. You know, Happy Days is on the TV at the time. He is literally like the Fonz. And to a kid from Cardiff at the time, I didn't think that people like this existed, this larger than life. And so there's Abe. He's got a white scarf around his neck, grey hair, slicked back, you know, tinted glasses. I thought, my God, this guy is so slick. And he then proceeds to, it was like a court scene. The band are there, Lynn and Mia stood there, and well, like the two defendants. And he proceeds to take Lynn apart in front of everyone.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I don't like I don't like your voice. Lynn's got a really good voice, but it's kind of an R&B Joe Cocker
Okay.
voice.
Little
Really
raspy.
plays fantastic blues harp. You know, he's great. As are a lot of guys like that from Wales. So they anyway, Abe just says this is the guy you want, you know. And this was so embarrassing. It's not even possible, you know, even at my age now, it's embarrassing to tell a story, but it's also hilarious, you know, because I've never heard another story like it where two people have to you know are pitted against each other in the same room. Now the band don't want me in the band, and now you got Abe saying, "Hey, this is the guy you want." So I'm there, and so Abe has now won the case. Sloman's in the band, and with that, Abe and Steve they take off back to London and leave me now
With
in
them.
that room with those guys. And oh, by the way, they're taking Lynn with them. They're buddy. Yeah, hey, come on, you can sleep in the trunk on the way. You know, they hate me.
Wow.
Apart from Tony. Apart
So
from
so
Tony.
let me ask you, Joe. Then why do you why take the gig in that sense? I know representation. I know, but if there's hostility towards you, did you feel like you have to prove to them then that I
Do you
can
know
do it?
what? Oh God, this is almost like being on a psychiatrist's couch because it's a a pattern that happened throughout my so-called career.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It happened with Heep, and it happened with Gary Moore too.
Everything was a challenge.
There were people in the band that didn't want me in the band.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and and every time I was left thinking, wait a minute, there's something going on here. What is this? I mean, putting aside
Well, let me ask you
I'm
this.
not
Let me
very
ask you
good.
this. Did you is your perceive of your person? Is it a nice guy or is it an asshole? Or how do you come into these situations? Do you come in gratefully? Do you come in like, listen, I know my shit and I can work out with you?
No,
What's
I never do. I'm quiet,
okay?
and I'm the guy that sits in the kitchen at a party and just talking one on one with somebody.
If someone
And
approaches,
I've never walked into a room in my life and said, "Hey, I'm here."
okay,
Never
gotcha.
happened. So anyone who tells you that, they're lying.
Okay,
So no, I really, I've looked back on it and I thought, you saying it, I've done the same. I thought, why didn't I just say, listen, guys, you should have Lynn because this is not going to work out.
yeah,
It did work out in the end, by the way.
sure,
You know, musically, we did a good album,
absolutely.
but, but I was never comfortable in the band. not for a second. I roomed with Tony when we were on tour
Hmm.
because I knew that Tony was in my corner.
Right, right,
But,
right.
but what happened? I gradually proved myself to the guys that actually I was actually had some talent.
All right. So
Um,
you record firing on all six. I have a quote here. I want to. It's on Wikipedia. I want to see if you know if it's fact or fiction. Okay. Ready?
uh-oh,
Okay.
go
Steve
on.
Woods, manager of Lone Star at the time, said, "We all went down to Ridge Farm Studios, and the idea was to write a new record. But the band just started smoking masses of dope and bong pipes and got into these extended jams. It turned to the Pink Floyd of funk jams. It was really weird. There were upstairs area in the barn where they were rehearsing. Pete Hurley had an extended lead attached to his bass so he could play up there while laying down. He was so stoned. It was an unbelievable situation. There were women, drugs. Nobody was doing any work. They lost sight of their goals. One day, the record company came down and unannounced at 3 in the afternoon to check their investment was doing. Everybody was asleep, and they were horrified by the new songs when they heard them." That's the quote.
That's outrageous. It's just completely untrue.
Oh,
And
God.
we were all doing push-ups all day and drinking smoothies. I don't even think anyone.
Writing 40 songs a day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely we were.
You should
Every,
see the demos.
yeah, yeah. As it happens, we did do some demos. No, every word of that is true. Literally every word is, but I could even double down on that. It was incredible. But Lone Star were incredible musicians. And I would sit there while they jammed and just enjoy listening to them jam. Because back in those days, uh, bands jammed. You know, Zeppelin never did the same show twice. They always improvised. And Little Feat, you know, all the great bands knew how to jam. And there's a tradition here, anyway, amongst musicians to be able to jam. You know,
Yeah.
band Man, if you've ever heard of Man, they would jam on one song for half an hour, you know. Okay, there was a little bit of smoking stuff going on there as well, but it is absolutely true that we did inhale, and there was a lot of jamming. I wrote a lot of very surreal lyrics while I was at Ridge Farm, and also it was the Queen's Silver Jubilee, and in honor of the Queen's Silver Jubilee, there was a brewer's brewed something up, and it was barley wine kind of thing, and it was called Jubilee Ale, and they sold them in little bottles because I think if they sold them in bottles this big, people wouldn't have got out of the bar after one. I mean, they were insane. So we'd go to the local pub. We wouldn't be in the local pub. We would just go there and buy a load of these little bottles of Jubilee Ale, and yeah, it was pretty. It was like rocket fuel.
And
But
it
I do
said and it
remember.
said that you eventually left the barn and you had to go to Utopia Studios, I guess, to hammer down the songs in London. Then, right?
No, no, you told we went to Chipping Norton in
Okay.
Oxford, and Chipping Norton was a really good studio, and Trapeze had recorded, you know, You're the Music, We're Just the Band.
Yes.
They recorded that there,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so I was really thrilled, you know, to go there. But it was true about the record label anyway, and the producer come in, and we had some stuff to play them. Um, but in the end, we ended up with some decent demos. But uh, Lone Star was so good; they were such great musicians that they were able to put it together in the studio. Don't forget, they'd already been doing lots of gigs before I
Right.
joined.
The seasoned veterans. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. You know,
Yeah.
so Bells of Berlin was mostly completed before they hit the studio. But things like the Ballad of Crafty Jack, that was jammed out in the studio, you know.
And was Reading Festival your first big show?
Yeah, Yeah, it was. Yeah, and hmm, I spent Tony and me spent the night before just sitting, um, smoking quite a bit, and which is something I can't believe that I did that now. But of course, I was 19.
Yeah. And you
But
can kind of get in your head that amount of people, and it's a serious gig, you
yeah,
know.
oh yeah, sure. But we sat in the hotel room, smoking and listening to two albums that had just come out, and one was Rumors, and
Fleetwood
the other
Mac.
by Fleetwood Mac, and the other one was Time Loves a Hero, Little Feat,
Hmm.
and uh, and yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting to do Reading, and I think we went down really well. I think we had a good spot, um, which I think was early evening, and and Heap were on the same bill, by the way, and that's without wishing to jump the gun. Trevor Bowler,
You got noticed then.
yeah, Trevor
Yeah.
Bowler watched the show.
Let me. Were you the lead singer itself? Because I didn't research this part. Were you behind the keys all the time, or did you come out to the front for Lone
With me.
Star?
Oh, with Lone Star.
Yeah.
No, I was the lead vocalist.
Okay. So you were the
Yeah, I was the
front. So you
vocalist.
were the front man.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, yeah, and nothing is ever said about me as the front man in Lone Star. Um, but but I was good
Hmm.
for a young kid. We did a lot of high profile stuff. The whistle test, the
Oh
Ogre
wow,
whistle
little gray whistle test. Yeah. Yeah.
test. Um, we were on there with Crawler,
Did
and we
you do
did
Top of the
Cypress.
Pops?
No, no.
Okay.
That was at the time when rock bands didn't do Top of the Pops.
Okay.
Or is this trying to follow in the footsteps of Led Zeppelin? Saying, "No, we're never going to do TV and all that stuff."
And
Uh,
oh great. Oh, is all great live or lip synced?
Live.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
God, no, it was
Good.
live. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, it was live. Yeah, it was no messing about.
I gotta find that on YouTube. It's gotta be on
Yeah,
YouTube.
and I think Pete Townsend was on the same show, being
Oh wow.
interviewed by Bob Harris in the studio. Yeah, it was a big show. And that day, no, on my first gig, it was with Lone Star. Let me just tell you this: that uh, I we played Westfield College. It was the very first gig we did with Lone Star, and so that's January '77, February-ish. And I went into we're backstage, in this college before the show, and I go into the men's room to shave what little I had on my face, and Abe Hock comes into the men's room, and there he is with his white scarf around his neck, cigarette, hey, okay, you nervous? While I'm scraping away, and the mirror's on the wall and his reflections in the mirror behind me, and I'm saying, well, I wasn't until you came in here. Now I am nervous, And he said, hey, I was talking to Robert today. And Robert, he said, Robert Plant. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I told him, I said, hey, this kid's got a couple of your moves. You should come and check him out. So that night, and obviously I'd grown up with Zeppelin,
Hmm.
and Zeppelin were total heroes to me. So I went on stage that night thinking that Planting might be in the audience, which he wasn't.
Ah,
But it's a shame because that was probably the best gig I did with them.
right. You gave it a little oomph
Oh
on that
yeah,
one.
'cause I thought, well, okay, let's make sure I remember the words. Yeah,
And could you speak a little bit about the tour with Frank Marino? How did that go?
it's great. Yeah, it was an odd thing because Frank Marino was great, by the way, fantastic.
Did you watch him like every night
Oh
play?
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. And the band were great. He had a three-piece band. Um,
Was it
What it
during
was,
What's Next? Do you know? Remember the tour that he was doing?
do you know, oh God, if you said the name of the album, uh, maybe you can pull it up there. But what had happened? We'd done our own headline tour, playing all the major venues around the country in say September time, something like that. And then about a month went by, and Abe, the manager, said, "Hey, we've got the offer to do a tour with Mahogany Rush. Okay, where are we playing?" It turns out they were more or less the same venues we'd headlined at a month before. So that was a little bit of a strange, yeah, it was a little bit of a strange tour.
Was it a co or were you opening?
We were opening.
Okay.
It was an odd thing, you know. I mean, it was a good move of Frank Marino's management, absolutely, because we were going to pull some people in, but we couldn't. We were thinking, why are we here? But
World Anthem,
World Anthem, that's it, right?
77.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it.
Yep.
But anyway, we I remember one night, yeah, we watched Frank Marino a couple of nights, and then one time the band did their obligatory jam in one of the sound checks. Right, this is probably halfway through our dates with Frank Marino, and Paul is there, playing his Jeff Beck licks, and the guys could play, they really could. And Dixie could have been in Zappa's band. He was that good, a
Mm.
drummer. So anyway, then Frank Marino gets up and does his sound check immediately after the guys. And of course, his guys, they just took off. And instead of playing a rock sound check, they just started playing unbelievable jazz improvisation. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to say it probably rattled Frank a little bit when he saw how good the guys were, off the top of their head. So I think it was a little bit like he needed to put the guys back in their box,
Right,
if you
right.
like.
Show you who I
Well,
am now.
exactly, yeah, yeah. I can jam, and boy, could he ever. But they all could, you
Yeah.
know. His rhythm section were great within the context of the show that he was doing, but they were unbelievable. They had lots more in their locker
Yeah.
for as improvisers. So that's one thing that stuck in my mind, from that tour. Yeah, it's cool.
So now you guys were supposed to do a third album?
Yeah, yeah.
Supposed to.
Oh boy, yeah.
And then
Well,
And then Chapman gets the call that Shank is leaving UFO again.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, Paul, once we'd finished firing on all six, this gets a little bit misreported because what happened was we'd finished firing on all six, and there was, there's that period where there's not a lot happening. Are we going to be doing a tour? We're waiting to see what's going to happen. And Paul, this is before Reading Festival,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and Paul got the call
Oh.
that he was needed by the guys in UFO. So he went off and toured around stadiums with UFO.
But you guys had
Uh,
dedicated dates though, right? To perform when he
at
got
that
called?
point, at that point, we didn't. We
Oh,
didn't
okay. Oh,
have
so
any
so he was
dates.
free to leave you guys, not
Oh,
leave you hanging.
absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is when we finished the album. We know we're going
Okay.
to be doing that in say a month's time. And we know there's going to be a tour, but we don't quite know what the dates are. So yeah, Paul shot off. He then comes back around the time of Reading Festival, and he is absolutely beaming, because he's been doing these stadium
Right.
shows with UFO.
He's doing the Strangers in the Night tour.
Yeah, yeah, and he obviously Paul was a fantastic
I'm
player.
sure his chops got a lot better when he came back to you guys.
Do you know what? I think he did. I think it's just when you play those bigger shows, it's stagecraft as well, that develops. So that's how that happened. And then what happened? Tony party company with the band, and really the band was not quite the same after Tony left. and we were in up in the Welsh Valleys, close to where Pete Hurley was from, at a place called Pontland Ffraeth, and we were rehearsing in a room above a local pub called the Greyhound, and that's where we were writing material for a possible third album at that point.
Hmm.
I was already thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to stick around
Okay.
because I really didn't think the band was the same after Tony left. And what it was, it's not just that Tony was a good player, it's that he wasn't just a hard rock player. He had this pop sensibility and a way of tempering the more hard rock edge of Paul. So he could kind of, he
There was
could
the
put in
yin
those.
and the yang of going on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they had this way of weaving together, a bit like Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood,
Yes.
where you couldn't tell which one was playing and what, and it was like a seamless thing. So anyway, I was already thinking of kind of taking my leave, and then I did shortly after my 21st birthday. I did, and um, and then soon after, I heard that Paul had the call from UFO. So some people say that the band ended because Paul went back to UFO, but it wasn't quite like that. I'd already split,
Yeah.
and they
And
tried out a few other people.
let me ask, did you eventually win the guys over as you toured, or was it the same shit going on the whole time?
No, I mean, you'd have to. Well, poor Dixie is gone, and Paul. Well, Paul came back to me because here's the thing: in 1985, Paul and Tony showed up at a gig I was doing in London, and I was playing with just a couple of guys playing. To be honest, we were doing like fusion stuff, and because that was the thing at the time. Hey, can we talk to you after the gig? Yeah, sure. We're going to put the band back together. Are you interested? And I wasn't because when you've gone through that hell where you've been put through that
Right. You got
audition, you
scars.
go, wait a minute, yeah, exactly. And by this time, now I'm a little bit older and wiser, and so anyway, I did meet them the next day at this bar in Soho to discuss it. But no, my point being that
Yeah.
Paul asked me to join a reformed Lone Star, and also asked me to join a band in 1989, and I turned that down as well. Not because I didn't want to work with Paul, because Paul was a great player, but I was doing my own thing.
Right.
I was kind
It was
of
been there, done that feeling.
yeah, it was that, because I knew that if I worked with Paul again, he would see me as the kid in Lone Star. That's really the truth.
Okay.
And by then I wasn't prepared to be the kid in Lone Star, simple as that.
So then it says you try to get something going together and with Dixie Lee and
We went
Pino
to Canada,
again, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Canada with Pino was on bass, Greg Deckard, who eventually joined Heat. He was a Canadian keyboard player. And a guitar player used to play with the band with the Ian Thomas Band, which is a Canadian band, local Ontario band. And we played bars. We did a battle of the bands, won that. That was good. First prize was a week at this venue. Second prize was 3 weeks. No, but it was fun. It was fun doing that whole Canadian thing. And again, it sharpened me up a bit for Heap because we did a whole residency at some club in Ontario where we played like a 2 week residency. So every night we were gigging. Yeah.
And you got the contact from the management from Heap or Mick Box who got to
I
you.
What happened? We had problems with Canadian immigration, and there was also we had a falling out with Dixie. Unfortunately, that was really sad because Dixie had instigated the whole trip to Canada. So it was decided that we'd come back, try and find ourselves another drummer. And once we'd ironed out problems with Canadian immigration, we'd go back to Canada. So Pino and me flew back with that intention. I walked into my parents' house here in Wales, and there was a telegram
Telegram.
on the mantelpiece.
Was it? It wasn't Western Union on a pony.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're going to build a railroad, and so I opened this telegram, and it was from Bronze Records, and it said, "Call Bronze Records urgent." And so that night, no, before I could call Bronze Records, there was a call to my parents' house. I don't know how they got the number of my parents' house. And this guy said, "Hi, my name is Doug Smith. I'm the manager of Motorhead." And I thought, huh? You know, this, because I was already thinking the only band I know on Bronze Records is Uriah Heep. Anyway, Doug Smith said that, "Listen, can you call Bronze Records?" And I said, "Well, I've just opened a telegram. I'm going to do it." I think by this time it was the evening, so the office was shut, closed. So I went out that night. I went out to see my then girlfriend. I came home, and my dad was sat there, and he said, "Oh, here you go. This guy called. You need to call him back." And it was Trevor Bolder, and called the number. I spoke to Trevor's wife, and she said Trevor was out, but she'd get him to call me. And I think Trevor called me the next day and invited me to London. And it turned out that it was Trevor's whole idea for me to be in the band, because he'd watched me from the side of the stage.
Yeah.
So he called me up. He got me up to London. I stayed with Trevor and his family for a couple of days. Became friends, became buddies within a few days. I knew straight away, yeah, this guy is going to be a friend. Um, and he gave me the heads up about how things were in the band, that there was, politically things were not good between the rest of the band and Ken Hensley.
Mm.
I auditioned the first time, and it didn't go well. Let's put it that way. Literally just like Lone Star. And I thought, wait a minute, I've been here before. I've been here before. What am I doing? So I remember at one point I went to the bathroom, took a break during the audition. We were in the studio. I was on the studio floor. They were in the control room, in a different part of the studio, watching me on a video link. I couldn't even see them through the glass of the control room. It was really strange. Anyway, I go to the bathroom during a break, and I really did think of walking out, because I thought, well, this ain't going well. So I did that first audition, and then I got a call from Trevor telling me that the guys were not that kind of interested in me being in the band, but he was. He really wanted me to be in the band. I said, "Trevor, I've been in this situation before. Anyway, he asked me to come for a second audition, and they all wanted me to do that. So I went to Shepperton, which is the film studios, where they made Alien and all those
Yeah,
great
yeah.
movies. And we were on a sound stage there, and I was singing live with the band this time. And that time it was good. And we did July Morning and Easy Living, and a few other things. And
Was Kerslake with you then, or was he gone
yes,
already?
yeah, by the way, Lee was still there, and Lee was great. Lee was a great drummer. And I always loved Lee's playing.
Yeah, me too.
Because it was like really meaty. He had a bit of a bonzo thing about
He
him.
was hard. He was a hard hitting drummer.
Oh God, yeah. And so yeah, I thought everything was. I thought I'd done well, after the first audition. So anyway, I got a call from from Trevor saying the guys are still not convinced. So with that, I just said, "Well, listen, thank you, Trev, but I, I'm gonna I'm going to bow out at this point. I'm going to go back to Canada and go back to working with the guys over there.
Hmm.
I'm not going to. What I said was I'm not going to jump through any more hoops. So with
Right.
that,
You have
Trevor said,
you had your resume already. You
"Well,
showed them what you can do. No, well, honestly, John, you showed them what you can do.
yeah,
And listen, back in the day, you were a good-looking man too. so you had the long hair going, you had the youthful, you were great.
yeah,
You were a great looking guy for a band, period. You
yeah.
know?
Well, yes, I can look back and say, hey, really, I should have had more confidence. That's the truth of it.
Right.
But anyway, I said, listen, Trevor, I really don't want to go any further. With that, he said, well, okay, give me an hour. This is true. Give me an hour. Let me make some phone calls. So he calls round, and this is what he told me afterwards. He said, look, I called everyone in the band, and I said, look, it's now or never, and including Ken. Um, we need to make a quick decision here. He's just going to go back to Canada, and then we'll be back to square one. And within the hour, Trevor called me back and said, "You're in." And I put the phone down as you did in those days, and I just thought, I didn't feel good at
Mm,
all. It
yeah.
was it was the same as when I got the gig with Lone Star. And so yeah, so I was in Uriah Heep, but I just thought this already feels a bit like Lone Star Mark II.
Mm.
And of course Lee um, parted company with the band on the first day of recording Conquest. You know that, yeah?
Yeah, you ended up with Chris Slade.
Yeah, and Chris, to this day, obviously, is a really good friend of mine. And
So the same thing. Did they have to audition drummers, or was they called Chris to come in the cover?
well, I'll tell you what happened. I was first day there was a meeting called, and the meeting didn't include me.
Mm.
So I straight away I thought, uh-oh.
You're getting the boot.
Yeah, I thought, well, wait a minute. So I'm down on the studio floor doodling away playing all my Joni Mitchell chords and Todd Rundgren uh, chord progressions, and thinking, oh well, I'm going to get the bad news any minute, and they've changed their mind. So with that, after about an hour, the door opens, and here comes Lee Kerstlick walking towards me. As he gets like about 10 feet away, he's holding his hand out for me to shake his hand. He goes, cheers, mate, I'm off. And we're shaking hands, and I'm saying, where are you going? He said, I've been sacked.
They fired him.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there was a big, big row. That's all I know. I don't know anything about it, but there was a great big heated argument, obviously involving Ken as well. And Lee, that was it. He was out of the band. So Lee is gone. I'm sat there now on the studio floor at this piano, thinking, "Geez, that's the guy. That's the guy that played on all their big albums.
Yeah.
What is wrong with these guys?" And then, of course, I thought, "Hey, I'm really vulnerable now. I should just get the train back to Cardiff. So with that, the rest of the guys walk onto the studio floor, and they tell me what happened. And for days, Lee's drum kit was on the studio floor. And so after about 4 days, I said to the guys, if you want to routine some songs, I said, I can play some drums. And they all looked at each other and just went, what? And I said, yeah, I mean, I can play enough for you to, work on some
Right,
stuff.
get something out there.
So for one day, I was the replacement drummer in Uriah Heep. There's no photographs, nothing was recorded, but I sat at Lee's stainless steel Ludwig kit.
Starting
Uh,
to record, make
we
up some of
record
Conquest.
anything. We routine stuff. and it would be okay. There's this one that we're going to do. Okay, and I would lay, I hit hard, as they say, and I just jammed away. And then the next day, Jerry Braun came in, and he said, I can't remember quite what he said because Jerry wasn't convinced of me either as a singer yet. And he turned to me, he said, "Well, I've heard your drumming is sensational." So it was bizarre. It was the most bizarre thing because I actually had compliments about me sitting at the kids as opposed to singing.
Right, right.
It was the most bizarre situation. But that was the last time I wouldn't do that now because I've realized that people like you to be talented enough to do something, but they don't want you to be more talented than they need you to be
Hmm.
because they'll say you don't have any.
So they basically, they want to play you, as you say. So, but they
Yeah.
want to be the bigger entity of
Oh,
what's going
totally.
on.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously Trevor was a buddy by this point, and Chris and I hit it off straight away. For a start, I didn't know that he was Welsh. One day I just said, is that a Welsh accent I hear?" He said, "Yeah, I'm from Pontypridd."
Hmm.
Because he played with Tom Jones when he was a kid. So it was, the issue really was, and everybody knows the issue was Ken, and he was quite entitled to feel that way because Heap was the band. It was his band, really.
Yeah.
I think Mick put the band together, but I mean, Ken was the main writer.
Right. Right.
So I completely understand, and I understood then why Ken felt the way he did. But
So I'm looking at the track listing here, and it just shows "Think It Over." You got a writing credit on, right? And yeah.
yeah,
So
well,
was it?
yeah,
So was it
I
basically you came in? Did they want any of your ideas, or this is the song you're gonna sing it? It was it basically like that?
well, well, I did. I wrote two songs on Conquest, um, and it's just been an ongoing. I have to kind of keep telling people this over the years. I What happened? I I wrote two songs. This was in Canada the year before, and we were playing them with the band I had then, with Pino and the guys. And those songs won't have to wait too long, and No Return. And we were playing them live in the previous summer. So one day I'm just playing one of the songs, No Return, on the piano in the Rando studios, and Chris Slade said, "What's that?" Because I was going, anyway. Sorry, it's not turned on the piano, but I started playing it, and everyone started joining in, and suddenly it sounded really good, and it was a Heap song. What else you got? So I said, well, I started playing some other stuff, and I played One After Way Too Long. Everyone joined in. Hey, we got to do this. This is really good. So now there's two songs on a Heap album. So next thing you know, I'm invited up into Bronze Records offices, and I'm sat down with Jerry Braun and Irving Teitelbaum, who was the Bronze Records lawyer. And they explained to me that they had been contacted by CBS, who were Lone Star's April Music, the publishing company.
Hmm.
Basically, they were claiming that I was still signed to them,
Oh,
and that anything that I wrote for Heap,
went
the
that
royalties
way.
would, yeah. Because I said, well, how much do I owe? How much is owed to CBS? 90,000.
Oh,
Which,
jeez.
which of course, in 1977 was insane. I could have bought the streets where I grew up with that money. So I told them, I said, well, look, because they said, look, we could put, if we could put your name on your songs, but you won't see any money, or we can put the rest of the guys' names on the songs, and we'll give you the money, we'll give you the royalties.
Wow.
So I said, well, look, I want my name on my songs, because I wanted people to know that
Do
I
it.
could do what I
Yeah.
could do. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, to hell with it. And I've never really been that crazy about money anyway. So that was my downfall in the music in the music business. But anyway, so then flash forward a few months, we're at Hammersmith Odeon, and we've done the sound check before we're going to go on stage. A box of Conquest albums show up, and everyone's breaking open the box and looking at the sleeve, checking out the artwork. Oh, hey, this looks good. I turn the album over and I look at the credits, and my songs are credited to the other guys,
Mm.
but not Chris Slade. He was anyway. That was a very dirty trick, and unfortunately, I hate to say it because this is, Ken is no longer around, but I know that he he got the guys to sign a song assignment when I was not in the room. He asked them, did I know that this was going to happen? And and he told the guys that yes, John knows that the songs are being assigned to them because he wants to, get the royalties paid to him later on.
Right.
I didn't have a clue. So from that point on, and this is before, I think I'm only like 5 gigs into the first tour. So people wonder why I don't like the music business.
Yeah, it's rough.
So that made me very bitter, and it took me years, I think 14 years to get my songs recredited to me.
Wow.
But none of the royalties from that period came to me.
So
Now
so
I'm
so
not
what they said to you, they lied.
well. I would run into Mick. I need to say this. I would run into Mick during the 80s, and he would say, "Hey, John," because Mick is straight up guy, and he would say, "Hey, John, I got some checks for you, mate," you know, and oh yeah, okay. The thing is, I I was doing other things now. I'm on my way. I think at that point I'm already signed to EMI. I've got a solo record deal.
Right.
And so, oh yeah, thanks, Mick. And I didn't think anything more of it. But the fact is that I didn't see any of those royalties. And did Mick or Trevor get any of that money? No. But my songs were signed to Ken Hensley's publishing company.
Right.
That needs to be said, okay? So people will talk about there being a personality clash between myself and Ken Hensley. But to have a clash, to paraphrase Bill Hicks, to have a war, there has to be two armies fighting.
Right.
And and in the case of me and Ken, there was only one army, and that was Ken.
So we're talking about Hensley and the royalties. So when you got your name on the titles on the songs from the Conquest album, did you start finally seeing checks, or was it just a mute point?
Well, what happened? The reason why I did that, I kind of, how can I put it? I just chalked it up to experience. After a few years. I thought, well, that's over. Just move on. But then what happened? The CD in the 90s came. Sorry, the album came out on CD.
Right.
So I thought, well, hang on a minute. I really now should try and sort it out. So I got myself a lawyer, and it took 4 years.
Mm.
It took 4 years to get my songs back.
You know,
And in a way,
they said that it was never the album itself when it was first released never came to North America. It was only as an import.
right,
They never
right.
distributed it
Yeah.
here.
It's strange, the whole thing with Heat because they were in America just before I joined the band because they came out to the States and they were opening for Tull on really big shows.
Yeah.
And I think they opened for Rush as well, I seem to remember. Mick was telling me that too. So they go on some big tours just before I joined them. But we didn't get an American tour. Yeah, it was a strange thing, and for the album not to come out in America, especially given that he had a big following in America. You
So
know.
now, did they put you in front again as the front man, or were you playing piano and keys then with the
No,
band?
I was mainly the, as they called them in those days, the front man,
Yes.
and yeah, I was the lead vocalist. But because I'd written those songs on piano, those few songs on Conquest, they put a little Yamaha electric grand on stage, which I didn't expect at all. So on that, well, on every tour actually that I did with them, I think I did three, four maybe. There was an electric grand on piano on stage, so that I could play No Return. I'm gonna have to wait
Okay.
too long. And that was good because and I would kind of sit down and just vamp away, as my mother said earlier. For a bit of a groove now and again, rather than stand there, I would do the Freddie Mercury thing, just sit down and play a bit, rather than just standing there, posing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I think that annoyed Ken a little. In fact, I'm sure it did. Uh, but yeah, there was a piano there. On the last tour I did with them, I played some guitar, which was great.
Hmm.
But that was Mick. Mick was really magnanimous there. He just said, "Well, look, because you've been playing guitar on the demos, because Mick had broken his hand in a car
Ah,
crash before the last tour I did." So he said, "Listen, you've done the demo on Think It Over. You need to play it live." I said, "No, come on." Anyway, he said, "Yeah, it's gonna happen. I'll put a Marshall on stage." Mick was so good like that, because what other guitar hero would have done that, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Let the upstart singer have a little guitar solo. So it was good.
And the same thing I'm seeing here too, that Trevor Bolder got credit for being "It Ain't Easy," saying he
Yeah,
sang the vocals. What
yeah.
was
I
that all
mean,
about?
well, it's really what they call in London. It's what they call a stitch up, and there's no other word for it. I mean, Trevor was my buddy. There's no way that Trevor had anything to do with that.
Right.
When we were looking at the covers at the back of those albums at Hammersmith that night, Trevor was looking and saying, "John, I have no idea about no idea about this at all." So I think it was just the people in the office, but I do know that Ken writes the sleeve notes for Heap. He always did.
Yeah.
So I just think it was, another little knife in the back. That's fine. I mean, people. The thing is, um, it wasn't about money. It really wasn't for me. He was kind of stealing my moment, really.
Hmm.
That was the thing that was, pissed me off because I wanted people to know that I wrote those songs, and certainly I wanted people to know that I sang the whole album. So again, it's
Right.
another one of those things where I
And
have to
you and
explain
you
to
you could
people.
tell it's you. I mean, come on now.
Well,
Seriously.
it is bizarre. Even though I sang it very, how can I put it? There's not a lot of affectation in my voice when I'm singing it. I just sang it very, very straight because I thought it's such an honest sounding song that Trevor had written. But I thought I'm not going to put any kind of that rock kind of inflection or attitude in it. And it was actually the one song that Jerry Bron really loved that I sang on Conquest. He really liked it. So it's quite bizarre that in the end it was credited to Trevor. But hey, I don't begrudge him it because Trevor was lovely,
Yeah. My
and we
my
joked
my
about it.
favorite my favorite track was "Feelings." I thought you did a great job on that.
Well, thanks, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I struggled with it a bit
Oh,
because
really?
it seemed. Oh, no, I just mean I didn't particularly care for the song,
Oh, wow.
and because Ken could write "The Magician's Birthday," and then he could write "Feelings." He's a really good songwriter.
Sure.
He knew all the moves to make. So that song to me was almost, dare I say it, that could have been a Neil Sedaka song.
Right,
If you think about it,
right.
feelings empty, with Neil singing the way he did back in maybe in that early '70s period. So I think because I was so young at the time, I thought, why are we doing a song like Feelings?
Oh,
It felt a bit '60s. Now I look back and I, like yourself, I go, hey, that's a good song.
you know what?
I see.
There's certain stuff too. In back in the day, you couldn't pay me to listen to. And
Yeah,
as the brain matures and
exactly.
broadens out, then you go,
Yeah,
holy shit! Like I really I'm really
yeah. What was
enjoying
I
your
thinking?
I'm really enjoying your solo work now. When we start talking about that too, like
Okay.
it's really undiscovered gems. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
because if you only go one way with something or listen to one thing, you're missing out on so much. It's really sad in
Yeah,
that sense.
I believe so, and yeah, I like talking about all this. What I refer to as the Old Testament, which is when I was in all those bands, and it's good for me to do it because, but it's also bloody hard,
Yeah,
because I'm going back, and I don't want to be so kind of churlish to say, hey, I'm talking about that, and be all kind of, you know what I mean, dismissive, because there are people who would want to know, and I hope that some people would like to know what happened, why I seem to drop off the scene,
yeah.
like I did. Because I was there was a point where I was kind of the guy most likely to at at one stage.
So when did you see the writing on the wall with the end of Uriah Heep with you?
Um, I guess it's awful to say. It sounds like I'm just spinning a line, but it was that night at Hammersmith where I'm 4 days, 5 days into the tour, and I'd already been given a heads up that listen, Ken's going to be difficult to live with. If you do come into the band. And then I saw what had happened, and I realized, damn, I've been stitched up here. Can I live with this?
Hmm.
And it just worked away at me the whole of the rest of the time. Now, of course, it took a year from that point for me to leave the band, because as I was feeling like about the band, I was close to Chris Slade. I was already close with Trevor, and I was close to Mick. So these guys were becoming my friends, you
Yeah.
know. So I thought, damn, I was torn. I really was, and I didn't like fans of the band. I've stayed away from of any kind of trying to have any connections with the band over the years, because the fans, a lot of them don't warm to me, especially Conquest. But the guys and girls who do like Conquest, they love it,
Yes.
you know. So I,
Yes.
so I hear from people from time to time and say, "Hey, I love what you did, John. Don't worry about it." But so I kind of I stayed away from all the kind of Heap connections as much as I could. But however, I always wanted fans of the band to know that I didn't reject Heap. It wasn't like that. I didn't say I'm leaving this fucking band and slam the door behind me. It wasn't like that. It was like I say, they'd become my friends. By the time I then decided I was going to leave, Ken had gone. Ken that was in the August of 1980. And
Well, could
Ken
you have felt that now you can start when Ken left the bad juju in a sense was gone, even though he was the main songwriter?
It
Then you
was
feel like,
strange. It was a really strange moment, because it was a little bit like that moment I talked about with Lee, where because I'm 10 years younger than these guys,
yeah,
so I'm one of the kids that bought Heap albums. I queued for tickets for Heap on the Wonderworld tour. You know, I met the band backstage, not backstage, outside the theater.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
was a huge Heap fan. He said that after the gig, hey, let's go around the back. And I went, what? You know, I didn't even know such a thing existed.
Yeah.
He said, come on, we're going to say hi to the band. I said, okay. No, I just followed my friend Neil. So anyway, so the point being that uh, I knew that like Lee, but even more so, Ken was the guy that had written all their seminal stuff, and it was it was a big moment. We met him in the pub, and you know when people change their appearance drastically,
Mm.
that's always a sign I find, you know. And we met Ken over the pub, and he'd done something with his hair differently, and he was wearing really sharp clothes, and you know what I mean. It's one of those things where, in retrospect, you
Who's
go,
this guy?
he was looking different, wasn't he? He was looking really sharp, you
Yeah.
know, with like a really nice overcoat, and he cut his hair short up here, you know, still long, but I thought, wow, he's definitely gone for a makeover. Anyway, we go over to Bronze Records, go in the boardroom, and he just said, hey, I'm going to leave the band. And it was just silence. Imagine being Mick at
Yeah.
that point, who was with Ken on all those tours, all those albums. They'd gone through a lot together, you know.
So it was a shock
And
to Mick
so,
too, I guess, right?
wow, yeah. So I just looked across at Mick, and I'm sure we all did. I'm sure Chris did, and Trevor at that point. Like, my God, what's Mick going to say, you know? And Jerry was there, you know, Jerry Brown. And so with that, Ken got up and left, and so then there was this like a like a bomb had gone off, you know, dust, and and so over like a few days, people were saying, "Well, do we know anyone?" They were going to continue,
Yeah.
and and they talked about Morgan Fisher. I don't know whether Morgan Fisher is still active. Apologies to Morgan if he sees this for mentioning his name, but he was mentioned um, as someone, and I think Trevor mentioned Morgan because Trevor with the Bowie connection with Mott the Hoople, all the young dudes, you know.
Hmm.
So there was that connection that Trevor had with Mott the Hoople. So he mentioned Morgan Fisher, and in the end, after a few other players were mentioned, I said, "Well, listen, guys, I know a guy. He's really good, and he was in the band in Canada." And I thought they were just going to say, "No, no, no, no. That's not going to work, John. You know, we need someone from England, and we're putting up with two Welshmen already. You know, we need another English person in the band." So anyway, in the end, they said, "Well, okay, get his number. Let's call him. Let's call him now." And I called Greg, and would you be up for it? And he said, "Yeah, sure." And he came over and he auditioned down in Shepperton because Chris Slade had an interest, a business interest, in a studio on the lot at Shepperton Film Studios, a recording studio called Rock City. And so it was a really good studio, actually. And so Greg came down there, and so we were away from Bronze Records, by the way, which must have been weird for Mick.
Hmm.
Ken's gone, and now we're at a studio down in Middlesex, I believe is where it is. Anyway, Shepperton, and he auditioned, and Jerry came and gave his blessing, and that was it. It was kind of then a load of new writing began. Myself and Trevor, because we wrote Think It Over, and that had gone well. So because Trevor and me were close, I spent a lot of time over at Trevor's place then, and we wrote a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that became, was kind of going to be the next album, the
Right.
follow-up to Conquest. Um, and yeah, we were going to carry on, and it was like the way that Yes were. They went through that big kind of resurgence with Trevor Rabin, and they did that
The
honorable.
90210.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, I love the original. Yes, of course, having said all that, but the way, nevertheless, that they reinvented themselves
yeah,
for the 80s, I thought it was an amazing transformation, really. Well, that's I know that was the Heap. What was happening with Heap is before that, but that's the kind of thing we were thinking could happen, and that's what Trevor was saying to me. Hey, we could write an album here, and it could really relaunch Heap with a different sound, And Mick was up for it, and everything. Yeah, I mean, everything was kind of coming together at that point. But then there was some stuff that happened after. It was early '81, really, and a few things happened that were surrounding a new contract,
mm,
and that's when I decided I had to leave. And I'd already wanted to start. I wanted to do my own thing. It's not that I didn't want to be in Uriah Heep. It's that I wanted to do my own thing. I was 23, at the time. So, and so a lot of the fans, they might see me as, you know, walking out and slamming the door, but really, I just wanted to do my own thing. That was it,
right.
you know. And it was hard. It was bloody hard leaving Heap. It really was. But something happened regarding a new contract, and Jerry he got everyone to sign the contract and then presented everyone with these studio bills, saying, "Well, this money has to come out for these." Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. And I just remember Trevor. Trevor was married with two children, a mortgage. I'm just this young guy, I can still kind of go wherever.
Yeah,
And at the time, I just thought, wow, no, I gotta get out of here now. I could feel that this is the moment when I should leave. And but it was hard because I knew that Trevor had worked his butt off to get me in the band. And I told Trevor first. I walked half the way to Trevor's place, and he lived about 10 miles away from me at the time. And I called him up one night and I just said, "Listen, Trev, can I just come over? I need to talk to you." And yeah, sure. And as soon as he opened the door, he had this look on his face. And we sat at his kitchen table, and I just said, "Listen, I hope I got to tell you, I'm going to leave the band." And he just smiled. He just said, "I knew it." He said, "As soon as you called me up." Um, and it's tough leaving a band like that because you're not going to be hanging out together anymore.
yeah.
And a lot of bad things were said. Uh, there were rumors of me
In the
being fired.
in the press. Yeah, well, it's credited
Yeah,
as
yeah,
musical
yeah,
credited as
yeah.
musical differences.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but there was stuff about me being fired, and so, and at the time I didn't have a platform. I couldn't. There was no right of reply or place to reply from. It's not like there was YouTube. I could jump on YouTube or Facebook, and do a
You
little
could have went to
video. And say,
Sounds. You could have went to Kerrang.
you know, I didn't even think to do it. I was just,
You washed it away, right? Basically, to
yeah,
you.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not vindictive.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I do realize I did become, I came to realize that it's a business.
Yeah.
And therefore, I guess people were thinking, hey, Uriah Heep is a business. This doesn't look good that this kid has had the audacity to walk out. What are they going to think of our business? It's our band, they call it, but really it's our business. Let's be
Right.
real here. And so I think that's why all these ugly rumors went round. I don't think it was anything to do with Mick or Trevor. It was just people were just stirring it up. And that was tough. So I stayed away, and I regret that somewhat because I lost touch with Trevor. Chris, I stayed in touch with, but I lost touch with Trevor, and I think I'm sure. Well, I said to my then girlfriend years later, I think Trevor took it personally when I left the band, and she said he did.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh, thanks.
yeah,
And of course he did because he'd worked so hard to get me in the band, you know.
right, right.
And we caught up with each other now and again over the years. And then, of course, I heard he was sick in 2013. And I contacted Mick and I said, "Hey, do you think this is how I thought things were? I thought they didn't even want to hear from me. I didn't think Trevor would even want to hear from me." And I said, "Listen, do you mind if do you think Trevor would mind if I send him a message?" And Mick said, "Of course, he'd love to hear from you." I, "Oh, okay." So I emailed Trevor and just said, "Hey, because at this time, it was reported that Trevor had been getting treatment and he'd be back with the band in the summer, I think it was that year, later in the summer.
Mm.
So I didn't know. I had no idea how ill he was. And I sent him a message. I didn't get anything back. And then next thing you know, he was gone.
No.
Yeah, it was tough because there's a few people that I've lost touch with in my life. But most of them were buddies that I grew up with. And then, you kind of drift apart and then you
Yeah,
suddenly meet
you
people.
live your life. It's called.
Well, yeah, it's true. And I can think of maybe two or three guys that I've lost touch with and then heard that they were dead.
Mm.
It's like, and next thing you know, you're at their funeral. It's like, oh God. And Trevor was one of those guys where it was, you think, damn, why didn't I just pick the phone up one day and just say, "Hey, Trev, do you mind if?" But I truly did not think that they wanted to hear from me.
Yeah.
So I
Well, like
stayed
I say,
away.
John, it does go both ways. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, he could
So
have called me.
he could have
Yeah,
picked up that phone the same way you could have picked up that phone. So I mean, and like I
yeah,
said, out of sight, out of mind. Also,
yeah, that's true. There's that. And also musicians, in all fairness, we are very kind of blinkered when we're working, you know?
yeah,
That has to be said.
right.
Yeah.
And you see what happens. Mick totally gets rid of everybody's gone. He gets Lee
Yeah,
Kerslake back and Bob Daisley for
yeah,
the next
yeah,
album. And
yeah,
your track is on the next album.
yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, God,
And it did
yeah,
well that album too.
it did. Well, Think It Over did so well. I was surprised my bloody name was still on it. But then there you go. But yeah, it was good. It was good that it featured on the album. And I just respect Nick so much for what he did there. I couldn't believe it because my then girlfriend, because we were together through that whole Heat period, and she worked in the business, and she told me how hard Mick worked to get that band back together, going round America, yeah, on the road, literally like going right back to grassroots. And I just find that's just unbelievable. It's so resilient. And yeah, I think Bob Daisley's great. And I remember
He's an
running
amazing
into,
songwriter. Forget
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
shit he
absolutely.
had to go through with Sharon and the management too. With I mean, writing those
Yeah.
songs and then not getting credited, and then having Robert Trujillo and Borden come in and re-record all that stuff. I mean, talk about slaps in the face, and then bringing them back when they really needed them for No More Tears, and it's unbelievable what he had to go through.
It is, and Lee. There's some stuff about there was some very there were some hard videos to watch that Lee made when he was ill. He was quite
Yeah.
sick, and he was trying to square things with Sharon, a few things, and even like getting some gold albums or
Yeah,
some stuff like that.
on his death time, they finally
Yeah,
rewarded him with the albums.
yeah. I just find all that. That's why I hate the music business
Hmm.
because it's almost like every kind of common decency, human decency, it goes out the window, and people
Yeah.
think they think you're cool for doing it too. You know, they'll bloody reward you for it and award you for doing it. It's very, very bizarre, you know. But yeah, I mean, I had my strange situation with Ozzy. With there was a song, you know, it was a song "Shot in the Dark."
Yep.
Well, I wrote a song in '81 called "Not Guilty." No, that's not the first song that's ever been written called "Not Guilty." I'm sure. But anyway, I demoed it, and it ended up on a few. I demoed it a few times with different people, and my tapes got passed around the business a lot in that initial period after I left Heap. As happens, especially in those days, you know, cassettes and yeah, who's this? Oh, who's this guy? Oh, maybe we'll sign him or whatever. Oh, we'll cover the song. Anyway, I auditioned the bass player one day, who shall remain nameless, but I gave him
I
a
guess
load
he's
of
still alive.
yeah, and I gave him yeah, and I gave him a tape with about 20 songs on, one of which was Not Guilty. And anyway, I didn't work with the guy for whatever reason. And he goes off, and next thing you know, I heard that he joined. Well, actually, no, I didn't. I didn't hear that he joined Ozzy. I heard "Shot in the Dark" on the radio,
Mm.
and I was there in the kitchen listening to the. This is when I listened to music radio. Obviously, I don't bother anymore. But I just thought straight away, wait a minute, that really sounds, that sounds like Not Guilty to me.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, the chorus was, and even the hook was delivered in exactly the place, same place. You don't have to be a musicologist to figure that out. And anyway, I did a bit of detective work. There's no internet at that point, but you know, again, my then girlfriend worked in the business, and I found out quite quickly that this bass player was credited as one of the writers
Well,
and had joined
well,
the Aussie band.
I have news for you. That certain name that shall now not be nameless, I'm having in 2 weeks.
Okay, well, good. Say hi to him from me.
I will. I will.
Yeah,
And I'll say I'm gonna tell him I loved your version of Not Guilty that you did.
yeah, yeah. And trust me, he knows. He knows, and he knows that I know too. And I ran into him a few times, and yeah, it's so it's quite funny. And another time with Gary Moore, with Gary Moore, I had flu before the British tour with Gary, and one day Steve Barnett, Gary's manager, came into rehearsals, and because they were trying to get me sorted out before the tour, and Steve says, "Oh, don't worry, I've spoken to Ozzy's management, and Ozzy's recommended a doctor for John to go to." So I went to this guy in Upper Wimpole Street, which, you know, like that's the next street over from Harley Street in
Mhm.
London. And this guy gave me what I thought was antibiotics or something. Anyway, um, a week later, I'm still no better. I went back to the doctor and I said, these antibiotics aren't working. And he said, they're not antibiotics. I can't remember what he said they were. Anyway, I went on tour then with the flu, a chest infection. It was an awful time I had on the road. But months go by, and then I hear that that same doctor had been done for diamond smuggling, and this is the same doctor. Yeah. And so then, as a postscript to that, I go to with Gary. This is when I'm with Gary. Then still, we go to see Ozzy. This is when he's got who's the guy from? Is it Night Ranger playing guitar
Brad
with him?
Gillis.
That's him. So we go to Wembley,
That was
Gary
Rudy
and me.
Sarzo, Brad Gillis, Tommy Aldridge, and Don Airy was the lineup.
Yeah, great band, you
Yeah.
know. And it was at the time when Ozzy had shaved his hair off. I don't know whether you remember. He looked like Uncle
I
Fester.
was at the Ritz for the Speak of the Devil. I was at one of the shows.
All right.
Yep, for that. Yeah. and he came out like
So,
that, and we were like, "What the hell is this going on?"
well, I saw him at the festival where he was on a festival with Motorhead, and he walked on stage with his usual Ozzy Osbourne hair, 70s hair. And as the band started playing, he lifted the wig off and revealed this Uncle Fester head, you know. Anyway, so I go in the dressing room with Gary after the gig, and there's Ozzy there. And he's got, not only does he have the Uncle Fester haircut, he's got the coat, he's got the black coat buttoned up to the
All the way to
neck.
the.
Yeah, it's like, is he playing me here?
Oh
You
my
know,
god!
is he going to put a light bulb in his mouth any minute? You know. So anyway, I'd go up to Ozzy, and he was definitely on one at that point, you know. And I said, "Hey, Ozzy, we've never really met, but you recommended a doctor for me a few a few months back. And do you remember the guy? Blah blah, whatever the doctor's name was. I really can't remember what his name was. Uh, he got done for diamond smuggling, didn't he? That's hilarious. And I'm trying to, you know, hey, what a laugh, you know,
Yeah,
what a
yeah,
rock and
yeah.
roll story, you know. And Ozzy just looked through me. That's the only way I can describe. He looked. I've never had anyone look through me. Well, actually, Phil Mogg did as well once, but Ozzy's eyes black, and he just looked through me, and I just went. Anyway, you know, Gary and me just left, you know. I mean, Gary knew Ozzy from years before, and he was just saying, "Oh, don't worry
Well,
about it," you know.
well, Ozzy tried to get Gary when Randy passed away.
Yeah.
And Gary wanted nothing to do with with that. That's why poor Bernie Torme suffered
Yes.
doing that. I saw Bernie at Madison Square Garden.
What was it like?
You know what? When I was up in heaven watching it,
Right.
and a
Yeah.
blonde-haired guy comes out, starts playing, and we all thought it was a ruse. We thought Randy's alive. Holy shit, there's
Oh,
Randy. And then he starts doing the solo, and we go, "That's not Randy."
yeah. Yeah. He
it,
was
it
more.
was it was listen, he had what, 2 weeks to rehearse all
Yeah.
those songs. He just left Gillen. It was so
Yeah.
much going on. I mean, like, listen,
But he was a
he was a
different type of
trooper.
player.
Yeah, he was a trooper, but he wasn't right for it. He just wasn't right for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I really loved Bernie's playing, but he just was a different type of player.
Yeah, I
I
love him in
did
Gillen.
they yeah. Did they contact Sykesy? I'm trying to remember. I think there was
They
a whisper.
contact right. They contacted Sykes. I think he was around. He was because I want to talk about Badlands also. Uh,
Yeah.
I think he was teetering between Thin Lizzy and Whitesnake at the moment, or maybe White
Yeah, I
Thin
think it
Lizzy.
was Thin Lizzy. Yeah.
And he loved Phil, so he wasn't going anywhere
Yes.
then.
Yeah. And I'm sure Phil made sure he wasn't he wasn't going
Right,
to go anywhere.
right. So they
But,
ended
but
and they wanted Gary, and Gary said no, and they ended up with Bernie, and Bernie wasn't working out, and then they snatched Brad Gillis.
yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's right, because I remember that there were all sorts of insults flying around in the music press from Ozzy about Gary, you know, about Gary's appearance, you know. And I remember I was on tour with Gary at the time, and Gary'd sit there reading these interviews that Ozzy had given, you know, where Ozzy was slagging him off. I was saying, what's going on here? Because Ozzy had sang on Gary's album, Corridors
yeah,
of Power.
yeah.
And I thought, well, aren't they buddies? What the
More
hell's
of the
going on?
jungle he did.
But yeah, but of course it doesn't take much for people to fall out. I remember going and seeing Ozzy rehearsing when Randy was with them, because we were down in Rock City, that studio I mentioned earlier, after Ken had left, and Mick came in the studio and said, "Hey, come and watch Ozzy rehearsing. He's on one of the stages, you know, the film stages. You got to hear this kid playing guitar." I went, "Well, okay." You know, like, and Trevor and me and Nick just went in the room, and there was this tiny little guy where the Les Paul looked huge on Randy Rhoads, you know. But yeah, he was amazing.
And you saw the Curse Lake Daisley version, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
was that was in rehearsals. This is
yeah.
like really early, where Randy at this point he's like this amazing discovery.
Yeah, because he
He
was
hasn't.
originally in Quiet Riot, and they were more of the LA
That's right.
scene.
That's right. Yeah,
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 you
yeah.
know,
I'm sure people in LA and the States knew
right.
about
And
him,
he was
but
a musical teacher, doing like Segovia,
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
Bach. He was doing all type of
get
stuff
them
like
back
that,
and stuff like yeah, yeah,
right? And then he comes in, and that's why you hear D. D is like that's what he was that instrumental D that he did on the first
yeah,
album. That was
yeah,
him.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
All right, so I want to get to now. I want to. So you were Badlands before Jakey Lee was Badlands. True?
Do you know what? I don't think so.
Oh no.
Uh,
So
no.
you gotta give Jakey Lee a few shekels.
Oh God, it's embarrassing because what happened, the whole thing came around because Whitesnake was off the road. I'd run into Neil Murray one night, and Neil said to me, "Hey, have you learned any chords from this chord dictionary yet that I bought you?" "Not yet," I said. So he was off the road, and I was in the process of writing stuff post Heep with a view to getting myself a solo record deal at some point. That's what I was shooting for. So anyway, Neil and I really hit it off, personally and musically. So then we started talking about, hey, maybe we could do a gig or two. Yeah, okay. Yeah, who could we get? So we jammed with a few people. Alan Murphy. I don't know whether you're familiar with Alan Murphy. He came down, but Alan was really busy. But of course, he was amazing. So Alan was too busy, and then one night Neil and I were on our way to this bar called the Funny Farm in North London, and we both heard the Tigers of Pantang, Love Potion #9, their
Hmm.
cover. And I said, "Have you heard Sykes' guitar playing on that?" Because I'd met the Tigers out here and there around the West End, and I'd always got on really well with. I knew John Deverill from Cardiff,
Phenomenal singer.
so so it was kind of easy. So Neil said, "You know what? What about we check him out?" So I called him up, and he came down and slept on my floor for 3 weeks,
Wow.
and
Was he
we.
thinking about leaving the Tigers then itself, John?
Had. Oh, but yeah, sorry, Paul. To be clear, that was the thing that clinched it.
Okay.
We then heard it was one of those serendipitous things where just as we're thinking of giving him a call, that he then left the Tigers. So I called him up, and I think he was living in Blackpool, which is like right at the other end of the country. And yeah, he came down with his guitar, and I think he had one or two little pedals. I mean, it was so simple in those days. There was no pedal boards and stuff like that.
He had his Black
And
Gibson with him.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and he had a delay. It was an echo unit. So I can see it now, like a little digital delay thing. It was really nice. And so we rehearsed for like 3 weeks in total at a place called Alaska Studios in London,
And were you
and
doing originals or doing covers? What were you doing to feel each other out?
originals. Originals.
Oh wow.
It was we did a lot of the songs that I'd written post Heap,
Hmm.
and also we did some of the songs. Well, the two songs I did off Conquest, we did them, and we also did some of the songs that Trevor and me had written that were intended to be the album that in the end became Abominable. You know, in other words, the follow-up to Conquest.
Were you tracking
Uh,
anything?
oh no,
Uh,
I wish we had.
damn.
Well, what am I saying? I mean, we did a demo.
Okay.
I don't know whether you're aware of this. What happened? We went into EMI Studios and we did 5 of my songs. One of which was Not Guilty. That was one of the versions, and I think that's the version that was then heard. But
Hmm.
so there were the 5 songs were demoed, And yeah, and John sounded great. We did the Marquee Club, and Gary Moore came to the Marquee Club.
Wow, to see the band.
Yeah, and I was really nervous. Not because I didn't know anyone was coming, but I was nervous because I hadn't done anything since Heap,
And
and this was
basically it's your band now, right? So is it
yeah,
John Sloman's
yeah,
Badlands or Badlands?
yeah. Well, yeah. To come back to the name, we were in the rehearsal room one day, and Neil said, "Listen, we've got to come up with a name because the Marquee want to publicize the gig."
Hmm.
And I think we played in May. Since the gig was in May '82, so maybe we're in, I don't know, sometime in early April. And they said, look, they got to publicize the gig. So okay, so we just went round and round and round and round. Can you believe it? After all the years we've been in bands, not one of us could come up with a decent band name. Not one. My girlfriend had always suggested a band name as Blue Murder.
What?
Yes. Yeah. And so that was definitely one of the names that was run up the flagpole that day,
Wow.
but not spelt how they spelt it in the end. She'd always suggested that we do Blumurda,
Mara.
Blue Murder.
Mara.
Yeah, Blue Murder.
Mara.
And I mean, hey, but
But
of
I
course,
think the seed was planted.
indeed, but this wasn't said in this. Yeah, it was said in front of John. And so we had a list of names. Anyway, we couldn't decide. So then someone said, I think John the drummer said, what about Badlands? There's a really great movie called Badlands. I think it's got Sean Connery in it. And then someone else said, no, you can't do that because there's already Badlands with there's a band called Badlands. Maybe Neil said that. He was the one with his ear to the to the ground. And then another bright spark, like something on a Spinal Tap, said, "Hey, what about John Sloman's Badlands?" Like as if it was some genius idea. But they may as well have called it John Sloman's Beatles, because it's ridiculous. It's
Right, right.
absolutely. But because it was one of those things where you had to let the marquee know by the end of that day.
Because they want
Hey,
it
what
on
are
the
you?
advert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they got to go to the printers. It's not like they were putting it on a website. So they needed weeks to do it, ahead of the thing. So that was it. It became John Sloman's Badlands. And it's something that has embarrassed me ever since. Oh, yeah. I mean, they did it way before. I just thought, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
But I truly could not think of one decent one decent band name. John Sloman's Beatles could have been really good. Could have taken off. Especially with the Beatles loyalists behind us.
So now was Syke shredding the guitar solos with the songs that you did?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, John was, Gary was his hero,
Yeah.
and what was happening? Uh, when I first met the Tigers and all those guys, and I didn't meet them through the music business, so to speak. It was purely like I would be in Soho at various places where all the musicians hung out then. And I just ran into them one night at the Marquee. They were recording in the studio upstairs above the Marquee Club. So I became aware that John was a massive fan. Like Gary was his hero. I think he even had a cutout of Gary at one point.
Mm.
That he would put by his amp. He worshipped Gary. Hey, that's no bad thing for a young guy. But but then what happened? They would go over to Gary's flat, over to his apartment when they weren't recording in London, and they would just hang out with Gary, drinking, the musicians, and then John would come back to my place and with stories of hanging out with Gary. And I'd met Gary once before. That was it. So one day, John and me are walking into rehearsals at Alaska Studios. We're on our way to the underground station, And he starts talking about being over at Gary's place the night before. And he says, "Hey, it was weird, last night where everything's going well and everyone's drinking and listening to music, and then suddenly Gary reaches over to me and he taps me on the arm and says, 'Hey, get off my back.'" Yeah, and I could tell from John, of course, that
He was
his
hurt.
hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine your hero doing that. So now maybe that put maybe a bit more determination into John. That because you could go either way there. You could kind of lose it, or you
Sink
could
or
say no.
swim.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I think in the end, John earned Gary's respect. I think because he was playing very much like Gary at the time, and he had the facility there, obviously, to shred like crazy.
Vivian Campbell,
Uh,
the same thing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, well,
same
yeah,
same
because he,
school, same school guitar technique.
yes, yes. Is he what? Is he a Gary Moore fan, or
Oh,
he
well,
just maybe just
he's Irish. You know,
right? Oh,
and
well, then, hey, that could be a thing,
and no, and he's credit. If you listen to the first two Dio albums, you hear Gary.
Right.
You hear Gary Moore. You know,
Okay.
his tone, the solo work. I mean, it's great, but
Yeah.
you could tell who he appreciates. You know,
Right.
where
The
where
one thing.
John where John, I really thought came into his own. I thought John had a Ted Nugent, Gary Moore style with his guitar work.
Right.
That was my own opinion of how he came
Yeah.
out.
Right. Well, I lost touch with him for various reasons afterwards, and yeah, I didn't know much about what John did then afterwards. I knew that he had a band called Blue Murder,
Yeah.
and that I remember at the time going, "Hello," I'm sure I remember that being on our list.
Another thing,
Yeah, and I wondered if John was the guy that said, "No, I don't think Blue Murder's a good name."
because I'm going to take it for myself 10 years
I'm
from now.
taking, yeah, that's right. But
Well,
yeah, then
let me ask you this. So Gary comes down, they do all that, and then what is does Phil poach him from you then as things are going along?
yeah, I mean, the idea was that we did the Marquee and we did another gig. We did a gig called the Zero Six Club in Southend,
And how is the
and
response?
great, yeah, great, a great at both places. But the Marquee was a big deal because I was, like I say, I was really nervous because it was the first time I was stepping out after Heap, and really the first time I ever had my own band.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a big deal. But sorry, what was the what
About
were
Lynott coming in and taking John Sykes
oh
away
yeah,
from
yeah.
you.
And so then suddenly,
Before that timeout, before that, was Neil Murray out of Whitesnake already? That's why he came to you. Like, was he done, or was they on a
he
hiatus? What was
was
the deal?
he was yeah. I've never really asked Neil what was going on there,
I mean, he was
but
in the
I think
greatest lineup of a band ever.
yeah,
That Whitesnake, Marsden, Moody, Pace,
yeah,
Lord,
sure,
Murray. I mean,
yeah,
Jesus Christ,
yeah,
that's an all-star
yeah,
band that could
yeah.
have lasted forever. To be honest
And
with
it's a rootsy,
you, the
typical
bluesy thing. I
blues.
I had the pleasure. I'm sorry, but I have to tell this real quick.
Yeah,
I had the
sure.
play. I was at Planet Hollywood, and I walk in, and I see in the corner, I see David Coverdale. I'm like, holy
All
shit! I
right.
go, isn't he working with? And I look, there's Jimmy Page,
All
Coverdale
right.
Page, and just so happened there were four seats by the bar, and the poor people got up, and I was with two girls that were really good looking, and my buddy, and me. So we walk over.
Mm.
The two girls sit over here, and literally 2 feet away from Coverdale, and David Coverdale starts automatically hitting on the chicks,
Right.
automatically, right? And
blood
I'm
singers.
watching, and I'm watching, and I'm not saying nothing. I'm like, in my head, I'm going, "Holy shit, it's David Cole and Jimmy Page. Holy shit, it's David Cole and Jimmy Page." And I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I look, and Coverdale's mimicking me, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and all of a sudden now, I have the knowledge of Whitesnake, of old Whitesnake, and I go to him.
hmm.
I said, it's not I know it's a cover. It's not your song. I said, but "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City" is one of the greatest versions I ever heard in my life. And he looked at me and goes, "You're the first American to ever say that to me ever." He goes, you know, which was a
Yeah,
statement
because
because it wasn't is
yeah,
this love? Here I go again.
of course,
It's
of
still in the
course.
night, and
Yeah,
and it was such a great night that they're all drinking cranberry and vodkas and screwdrivers that suddenly the place knew that it was them. That they got
right.
a whiz. And I swear to God, John, it was unbelievable. No one approached them. It was like they were in the little corner and everything was cool. It was just us. It was literally like we were cocooned with them, you know?
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
bartender comes over and goes, the manager would like to buy, and as you see how my personality is, the manager goes, we would like to buy you guys a drink. And I turned around and they just finished mixing the Coverdale Page album. They were
oh,
celebrating, you know?
right, okay.
And they had the manager there and the engineer and the producer and everything. And I go, "Hey fellas, they want to buy us drinks, And they're like, "Oh, we'll have this, we'll have that." And at the end of the night, they come over. I always had a camera on because I'm in New York City. You never know who you're going to meet. I always had a little Instagram,
Yeah,
had a camera, and I go
sure.
to David, and I have a napkin, and they wrote "Cheers," on the Planet Hollywood napkin page, and Coverdale, and they go up, and I go, "David, can I take a picture?" He goes, "Paulie," he goes, "it was such a lovely time. I don't want to now if I take a camera and take a picture, now people are gonna look, and it's gonna turn into something." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I go,
Yeah, yeah,
I said, "I respect that, thank you." And Jimmy Page
yeah.
comes up to me and he goes, "It was lovely to meet you." You
Right.
know,
Cool.
I was like,
Nice.
"Holy shit, man!" It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
such a such
yeah.
a such a great memory. But to get back to where we are, so I mean, they got it all going from the live album. They just come out with the other
Yeah,
album.
yeah.
So what was you? So he just came to you and said nothing of what was going on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember him saying that in the beginning, when he first suggested that we do some gigs, he just said, "Well, Whitesnake are off the road,
So
and
they're on
bands,
hiatus.
yeah, they
Yeah.
bands took time out. So I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, okay, and so I'm trying to think. Then I think Neil then went off with Gary. Actually, he
Before
stayed
you.
with.
Oh yeah, because they did corridors.
No, after I was with Gary, Neil stayed with Gary, and did he? And then, of course, he went back to Whitesnake, didn't he? With
Then he
Sykes.
did then he do a cozy and Sykes. Yeah,
Yeah,
then it was a four piece.
it gets confusing because there were a few different incarnations.
The
But
lineage
yeah,
is ridiculous. The
yeah,
tree has about 1 million branches.
yeah, yeah, really, yeah. So and obviously a lot of those branches are pretty good. Pretty strong.
So now you say Gary comes down the marquee. Sykes gets poached by. So then Sykes comes to you and goes, "Listen, guys.
It wasn't a big. No, it wasn't really a big thing. It was we'd done the second gig, and it was obviously we were going to do more stuff. But I was I was taking a shot really with it, just seeing where it went because I was just writing my material with a view to doing that solo album at some point.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if this works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then at some point, and I can't remember how I heard, but Phil Phil Lynott contacted John, and suddenly that was it. John was off with Lizzie,
Mm.
and who can blame him?
Well, he loved
He
Phil. Period. He was a he
yeah,
was that was
and
one of his idols.
the thing is, he was one of those guys that grew up with the whole, Thin Lizzy gunslinger, guitar slinger thing.
Right.
So following on in the footsteps of Gary for a start, his
Right,
hero.
right, right, right.
All the great players. So I see exactly why he jumped at the chance of
Yeah.
doing you know yeah.
And when did
But
Gary come calling you? So now wait a minute. Now again, Gary makes the Corridors of Power album, right?
yeah, yeah,
So now you get recruited from Gary because you are on the Always Gotta Love You video.
yep, yeah. That was a strange thing too. But
Right.
what happened? We had done the handful of gigs with John Sloman's Badlands, and Sykesy had gone to join Lizzie, and Neil came over to my place one day, and we were just hanging out, and then out of the blue, he just said, "What would you say if Gary offered you, you know, X amount of money to come and tour?" Is he going to?
Yeah.
Neil was being very discreet about the whole thing because he knew really that I was really committed to doing my own stuff. Uh, and he knew that I really didn't like to take a step back. And I still don't to this day. I don't like going back. Um, but in the end, I'd met Gary once before, just ran into him one time in a club, and we got on and we talked about music, and influences. And then I ran into him on the street actually when he was with Greg Lake.
Okay.
There's a black cab coming along the road, and the black cab stops, and out jumps Gary. He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'd met him in this club a couple of months before, and he's holding a guitar distortion unit, and he's kind of fiddling with it a bit. He was kind of a bit of a nervous character, and keyed up all the time, hyper. And hey, yeah, great. So where have you been? Oh, I've been rehearsing there. He said with Greg Lake at that cinema back there. Oh, right, cool. He goes, "Jump in." So where are you going? He said, "Just jump in." So I jump in the black cab with him, and then we're going off completely out of my way. I was going that way. He's going that way in this cab. And so, what have you been up to? He's saying, I'm just writing material, and I did that band with John Sykes and Neil. Oh yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing now? Well, new material. What are you? Well, I'm off on tour with Greg Lake. By now, we've gone like 3 miles, 4 miles out of my way in the wrong direction. So in the end, I just said, "Gary, can you just stop and let me out?" And he left me out at an underground station. I was miles, miles out of my way. So that was the second time I met him. And then Neil set up a meeting in the Ship, which is like a musicians hangout in Soho, down the road from the Marquee. And I met him in there one night, and we, again, talked music, and that was it. Really, he just said, "Okay, let's get together and have a rehearsal, see how it goes."
And now
And
Ian Pace is in the band.
initially, it was myself and Gary and Neil.
Oh, okay. So
Got
then,
together- we
so
got
Ari and
together-
Pacey came in after.
No, it was me and Gary and Neil. Just I don't know why, but that's how it was.
Oh, for the for
And
to just
and
jam.
then the second time we got together, it was Ian, and I was landed because I was such a massive early Purple fan,
Mhm.
and Fireball, Machine Head, all that stuff. I mean, it was him and Bonham for me drumming, and I'd wanted to be a drummer as a kid, So I always loved drummers, still do. So
Yeah, I'm
I
a John. I'm a Mandrake Root Ring That Neck guy.
you
You
know
know,
what?
Mandrake Root and Ring That Neck from
Oh
Purple.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
People don't
Yeah,
talk about those songs, John,
yeah, yeah.
and that's
That's
some
right.
good shit there. You know.
It is, and it's they're playing hard too. on those early things.
Early
There's I
stuff,
was
big
watching some
time.
early stuff from 1970, and it's fantastic.
And like
And
Richie had something to prove back then, Blackmore.
oh my God, yeah, um, yeah, wow, well, yeah, Blackmore. What can you say about Richie?
Yeah,
Richie Blackmore.
right.
I mean, people talk about Hendrix, and of course Hendrix was amazing. Um, but he wasn't. I didn't think Jimi Hendrix was dangerous. I thought he was, transcendent. All those mystical. He
He was
was
and a showman, a showman, burning the
an
guitar,
amazing
and
showman, of course. Whereas Richie Blackmore was dangerous. There was something bloody dangerous about him.
you didn't know
And
what you were going to get every night.
no, and I've seen people being interviewed who know him or have known him for years talking about him, and they will always kind of they'll suggest that even to them he's kind of got a dangerous edge. And
He
it
played the
comes across.
Palladium, Long Live Rock and Roll tour, I believe. Yeah, and he didn't like the sound. He left the stage after 3 songs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's Richie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many stories that I've heard about Richie Blackmore playing the set in the dressing room with a long lead, stuff like that. I mean, it's incredible. It's really his comic genius. I think. I think he's like a satirist, Richie Blackmore, as well as being an amazing musician.
The
I
best
think
thing.
he's a
Did
bit
you
of
ever
a
see the
satirist.
video? The last tour they did. Come Hella High Water. I think it was, and they're waiting for him to come on the stage. And they're playing and they're playing and they're waiting and they're waiting,
Yeah, that one.
and
Ladies
then
and
you have the
gentlemen.
comments, and then you have the commentary of John Lord or Ian Pace saying, "Well, we don't know what's
Yeah,
going on. He wasn't
yeah,
showing up. He just, we're all looking at each
yeah,
other like, what do we do now?"
yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. And I guess that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting, and it comes across. I never saw Purple, never saw them live, and I would have loved to have seen them when Richie Blackmore was
You
with
didn't see the
them.
reunion?
No, no,
Oh
no,
wow.
I didn't. I mean, they played in Cardiff here on the Burn tour, and I don't know why, but I didn't get to see them anyway. That was '74, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff on YouTube from
Yeah.
that tour, and again, Blackmore is kind of he's on fire like in those early Purple days. Again, very very dangerous. The California Jam where he sets fire to the stage and everything.
Breaks the
It's
breaks the camera with the guitar.
yeah, to me, it's just it's satire. I believe. I just think he's a satirist. you know, and it just seems very dry. I was sounded out once after Lone Star about Rainbow, and I think it after Dio. I think it might have been.
Or Graham Bonnet
Um,
or Joe Lynn Turner.
it may have been before Graham Bonnet then,
No,
but this is
it was
70.
they in between where they were trying to find
Well, they were
singers.
in between singers. Yeah, it was not.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was replacing anyone. And it was Steve Wood, the guy that had been Lone Star's, tour manager before then. And he got in touch one day. This is after Lone Star, '78. This would be. And he just said, "What are you doing, John?" And I said, "Well, as ever, I'm writing, and I'm hoping to do something." And he said, "Well, listen, I want to drop something into Richie Blackmore because they're looking for a singer."
Wow.
And the thing was, back in now, I got loads of stuff that I could play people who were interested in, working with me or whatever. But back then, you had a very limited amount of stuff lying around that was recorded, where
Yeah.
you could just say, "Hey, can you play him this?" And so, in the end, Steve played Blackmore, "Firing on All Six," and and Richie said, "Well, it's too much like Robert Plant." And you know what? I get it. He's not going to he's not going to hire someone that's going to make his band sound more like Zeppelin or something.
Yeah. He
If
wanted
you
it
see what I
all.
mean. He needed, I mean, very soon after, there was nothing like that in what I did. But unfortunately, at that point, I guess I was 20 something, early 20s. But I still only had the thing that I did when I was 20 as a recorded thing, you know.
Right.
But yeah, yeah.
So now back to Gary now. So now you guys all get together and you're in the band. So
Yeah.
automatic touring, straight to tour.
Yeah, it was a tour before Christmas. We did dates before Christmas, and then we did dates after. Well, I think we did like about 8 dates before Christmas and 7 after, something like that. Um, and one of the dates after Christmas was in the January was Hammersmith Odeon, uh, and that was great. You know, came was coming off stage at, after the last song before the encore, and Paul Chapman stood there as we come off the stage. He stood in the wings, you know. Hey, John, you know, I hadn't seen him for a few years at this point. Oh, how you doing? How you doing, Paul? How the hell did you get here? You know, literally stood on the side of the stage, you know. And of course, him and Gary know each other, and there's a little bit of friendly rivalry because, you know, Paul was in Skid Row,
Yeah.
you know, after Gary and all that. So, and obviously they both respect each other's playing. So we're about to go back on stage to do the encore, which is this Stevie Wonder song, "Higher Ground." We were doing like this really heavy kind of version of that, and Gary takes off his Les Paul, his famous Les Paul, and goes like this to Paul, hands it to Paul, as in, you know, inviting him to come and sit in with the band. And Paul's eyes light up. He just goes and reaches for the guitar, and Gary pulls it back, puts it back on.
Oh.
Oh my God, the egos of guitar players, man. Wow, Jesus. You know, the stuff they say about singers. Wow. We're not even in it. We're not even in it. Got those guys that play the guitar. Wow. Incredible. It's the same, you know, there's local guys here in Cardiff and they're similar. You know, they don't have to have done a damn thing.
And did Gary say, okay, you're doing rocking every night? You were splitting the vocals on "I Can't Wait Until Tomorrow." Did it work? Did it,
Yeah, that's what, yeah, yeah, yeah. All of that.
you're
Yeah,
singing
that
"Nuclear
one.
Attack"? And did you sing it behind?
Yes.
And the same thing. You played a little bit of the keys because you had Don Airy with you. But
Yeah,
did you?
but
But
it
you?
wasn't really, I
But
didn't really.
you frontmaned that
Yeah,
also.
that was it. I didn't really play any keys at all with Gary, even though that my career really has consisted of not being credited for things that I did do
Hmm.
and being credited for things I didn't.
Hmm.
It's a very strange thing. And so, you know, on the live album, it says, "Oh, John Sloman, you know, vocals and keys." But I just did a little bit of stuff on "Wishing Well,"
Okay.
which which anyone could have done, quite frankly. You
You
know.
know, it's funny. I guess he needed a frontman, but Gary's a really, I feel, a very good singer. You know,
Yeah, I love
really
Guy's
good,
voice.
emotional. I like I said, I
Yep.
love Cold Hearted. I love. I Can't Wait Until Tomorrow is version. And
Yes.
then when they brought you in, I'm like, again, not knowing you, John, and me being an American, and my
Yeah.
first experience is I heard Nuclear Attack at a club called L'Amour's in Brooklyn. You know,
Right.
and it's Jack Bruce singing the vocals. So I was like,
Oh,
holy shit, who the fuck is this guy? And then going to
yeah.
get Corridors of Power, and then seeing this guy's the vocalist, I go, wow, this guy's got some pretty and the chops. I didn't know. Again, I was like 13 years old, 14 years old, so not knowing about Thin Lizzy, not knowing about Coliseum 2, not knowing about Skid Row, not knowing about
Yeah.
anything, but knowing about
Yeah.
this album particularly. And then
Mm.
rocking, the Japan Live album comes out, and
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Sloman singing vocals and trading off, and I'm like, and you singing rocking and rolling. I'm like, why is there a front man? Why isn't Gary? Why isn't Gary
Yeah.
doing? It's like
Yeah.
it was like I appreciate, like, now, like I say, as older, I appreciate that album and you on it. But when you're a youth and you love the person playing and singing that shit, you're like, what? Why are you
Yeah.
adding so? It's like adding extra salt to a perfect
Yeah. I
seasoning.
agree. I mean, I trust me. I wondered why the hell I was there. Not, and I didn't even want to be there, really. Very quickly, I didn't want to be there. Firstly, I got sick, and
Right.
thanks to that crazy doctor that was not struck off, but he was done for diamond smuggling.
Were you fine that
Um,
night for that recording? Was that good? Do you feel it's good,
it
that recording?
was for the live album.
Yes.
It was okay, but
Okay.
we patched stuff up,
Okay.
and everyone does, by the way, you know. But I wasn't happy to do that, not at all. It was not a happy time, the stuff I did with Gary, because, like I say, I started on my back foot, and what it was, I went against my better judgment. I knew Gary was a fantastic guitar player,
Yeah.
but I thought I'm stepping backwards here. I don't know people who are Gary Moore fans. What the hell do you mean? You should be honored to be there. No, I just mean that I was stepping back into someone else's band,
Yeah.
and I thought, damn, I was doing so well after Heap. I'd really got a head of steam going, and I was writing a lot of material. And by the way, Gary was they ran through some of my material one day in rehearsals. And him and Pacey, they were both playing it, and Pacey gave me the thumbs up on this one song that was on Disappearances. So it was it should have been the perfect thing with regarding the musicians that were
Right.
involved,
Right.
but it wasn't because, as you say yourself, why was I was kind of surplus to requirements, and I felt like that. I felt like I was the guy that just had to come on and smile at the crowd and throw a few shapes.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was, oh God, this is painful, really
Right. And
painful.
like, and the time he's singing his own songs. What are you doing? What are you doing at that moment? Are you doing the keys?
Uh, no, I'm trying to think. I would have been off
Do you go
stage.
backstage?
Well, on the side, I'd be stood on the side of the stage with Paul Chapman. No, I was on the side, and
Like during
yeah,
sunset? Are you on the stage during sunset?
no, no, we're off stage at that point.
Right. What White Knuckles? He's doing
Um,
his guitar solo through.
yeah, off to the side,
Back
depending
on the
on the side.
streets, on the side for back of the streets too.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, just yeah. It was a strange thing, because I was good in front of an audience.
Yeah.
I communicated with the audience. I
Where,
was
where, what it should have been, John, it should have worked the way they got it when Neil Carter came in. That they both switched out, And if
right.
anything, and if they kept you and got rid of Don Airy and kept you as a keyboardist, piano, it might have worked a little better because then it would have been a tighter unit compared to you. I'm
Yeah,
going off.
but
I'm coming back on. I'm going off. I'm coming back on.
yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it was. I have to say, of course, Don is one of
Oh, of course, no.
the
That's not
great,
saying that. That's
of
royalty.
course,
Don Airy's
less,
royalty.
less, less, he's amazing. But yeah, it was just the fact that I'd never done a gig in my life before where I wait for the band to go on stage and do the first thing, whatever it was, and there was this whole intro thing, like a Jeff Beck thing, because Gary's hero was Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
They did this instrumental thing, and then I think we did End of the World, which is on Corridors of Power. That was the
Yes.
opening song, and I would come running on the stage, and it felt a little bit like Vegas, where hey, here comes the singer, hey everybody, I'm the singer, and then I'd leave the stage or whatever. And depending on the size of the venue, as I say, we did some club gigs, and I'd just be sat on the side of the stage there. The people are there, and I'm just right there, because there's nowhere to go.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, the whole thing was weird. I liked Gary as a person, and of course, he was a great, great, great musician. But then some stuff happened that really, really, really was. It made me lose respect for him as a person. Not during the time I was with him, but this is afterwards
Mm.
regarding the live album. And this is several years later. And, Neil Murray comes over to my place, and it was my birthday, in fact, and I invited a few people. Neil came over, and he said he sidles up to me in the kitchen, just him and me. He said, "Did you get the check?" And I said, "What check?" And Neil's face instantly changes because he realizes that I don't know what he's talking about. He said, "The we all got royalties off the live album." And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, that was a big moment because
Oh,
I
did you make a
thought,
phone call?
oh yeah, yeah, damn right I did. And I was only off the road because I was actually touring at that point with someone else. So I was home for like 24 hours, something like that. So I called the next day before I went back on tour. And I was told that no, you received everything that you were entitled to, or everything agreed, something like that. And then I tried again some years later, because Don Airey's brother, I was working with Don Airey's brother, Keith, who was a good player, by the way, he's a really good player. And Keith knew what had happened over the live album. He said, "Hey, John, you should try again because Gary's got a different manager." So I said, "Okay, all right, I will." And I called, I spoke to this lady who was managing Gary, and I explained the situation. I said, "Listen, I don't think Gary was even aware that there was some weird situation regarding the live album,
Right.
but the guys all received royalties and I didn't. So I'm not pointing fingers. Can you just let Gary know? Maybe something can be sorted out." And yeah, sure, I'll talk to Gary. Anyway, I'll speak to her in a few days after that. And she says, "Gary said that the guys were just winding you up." Seriously.
Well, like Neil,
Yeah,
Neil, Neil Murray was lying to you?
exactly. I was, no, it was really, and Don Airey, and of
Right.
course, Pacey. So that was tough. That was a real tough thing so at that point, really, my hatred of the music business was sealed. Because the thing is, people will say that the music business is a hellhole as a result of the people who run the record labels and the publishers and what have you. But the musicians are just as bad.
Yeah.
They truly are, and let that be my epitaph. That's the truth. They are, in fact, they're bloody worse.
I want to ask you quick. I didn't ask you before. Wild, Willing, and Innocent, the UFO album. You're uncredited for keys. Do you remember what song you did for that, or did you help it in
Oh,
anything?
sure, yeah. I've got a tape in the cupboard there. I've got a tape of the thing they say I didn't play.
And what songs did you play on?
I played. I played. I played. What happened? Paul Chapman played me a chug in E. I think it was in E, but I think it was probably in A. Come to think of it. And I played. Phil Monk said to me, "Listen, can you come up with some chords over this?" And it was just dun 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 dun. So I played these major seventh chords over the top, and he liked Springsteen. He said, "Can you come up with something like Springsteen?" So I played these arpeggio. I wrote all the keyboard parts. So and I was demoing at the same time. I was working with UFO in the day, and then I was going down to Shepperton and working on the Heat demos at night because Mick had broken his hand. So it was quite a heady time. So I did about 4 tracks. I'd have to check out the tape I've got,
Did you
but
did
there
you
was
do
a
did you do
really,
Profession of Violence? Do you remember that?
I'd have to hear it. I'd have to
That's
hear it to know.
that's
There
my
was
that song is tremendous. Oh my God.
right. Well,
Change Chains, Long Gone,
there was
Making
no there was
Moves.
no There were no vocals.
Oh, okay.
I was
So you
right. I
have to
was in
get the
the
music.
on the ground, and this was early days, and it was the whole band were there,
Yeah.
and but there was one that opened like a faster bam 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 typical Tonka uh, riff,
Right.
But I did about five altogether, and and then about 6 months went by. They wanted me to join the band. I don't know whether this has ever been reported.
So Neil wasn't in there yet?
No,
Okay.
they wanted me to join the band, and I said, "Well, I'm in Heap, and it caused a lot of problems in Heap because I'd been asked to play on, do this thing with UFO."
So they
So,
heard what was going on.
well, yeah, and so I said, "Well, listen, no, I don't want to join the band." I said, "I love the band, but I'm not going to join because I'm doing this thing with Heap at the moment." And so they said, "Okay, we'll do Reading Festival."
I'll play with them.
Yeah. And I said, No, I don't want to do Reading Festival." So then I'm in the studio this one day, and a crew guy walks in with a load of UFO albums under his arm. And someone over there says to the crew guy, "Who are those albums for?" And the crew guy says, he thinks I'm out of earshot. He says, "That's for John to learn the set for Reading."
To learn.
Yeah, yeah. No, no shit. This is
Oh
what
my
this is
God.
what this game is like. And bear in mind, this is when I'm a young guy. I'm getting all this shit. So, like I said, musicians are the worst. So, and then
Making
anyway,
friends every day, John.
yeah, yeah, really, and people wonder why I do solo stuff. So, yeah, in the end, they said, "Well, listen, just play on the album." And I said, "Yeah, cool." And so, I contributed a lot of stuff and I absolutely wrote the parts for Lonely Hearts.
Okay.
All those, and all Paul had was a chuck. I was there. So then 6 months goes by, and I'm sat with my girlfriend, and we're watching TV. Top of the Pops comes on, and it opens. Top of the Pops, that show opened that night with, and here's the latest from UFO. And it was like, wow, a hard rock band on Top of the Pops. This is something. And it's called Lonely Hearts. I thought I didn't know what Lonely Hearts was. And here comes Paul's Chuck. Chuck, 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 chuck. And my girlfriend goes, "Is that you?" I went, "Yeah, that's me."
So
And
so Neil, so again, your keyboards are on
it's
there,
confusing, isn't it? I know.
and Neil did not do those parts itself, but Neil got credited
Okay,
for being
well,
keyboards.
what happened? My girlfriend, she said, "I'm going to call Wilf tomorrow." Wilf Wright was UFO's manager. So she knew him. She'd known him for years in the business. So she just called him up and said, "Hey, Wilf, hey, we saw the new single last night by the guys. Yeah, to enthuse, right?" And I'd been paid for playing on the album, so that I wasn't trying anything on.
Right.
It was, well, I got paid as a session guy. But I think maybe Wilf knew that I'd contributed a lot to that single, and maybe he felt a tug on his wallet strings. And which that was not the deal at all. I wasn't going for that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Wilf said to my girlfriend um, that yeah, they replaced John's parts. So oh yeah, sure, they wiped my parts and got someone else to play
But
them.
kept exactly what you did.
Yeah, played exactly the same fucking thing.
Right. Right.
So you have to kind of go with it. You have to take the rough with the smooth, or the rough with the rough.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I liked Phil. I really enjoyed working with Phil because he really knows what he wants. And actually, um, if I talked to Phil about it, he'd probably say, "John, I had no idea. What the hell was going on at that point, maybe."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But he was certainly there when I contributed to all that song.
Wow.
And I've had people call me up randomly. Hey, John, I'm over at so and so's house. We're playing a UFO album. Are you on this? Is this you? And this whole rumor went round. I said, well, I've never seen the album sleeve. I have no idea. And then someone contacted me the other day. It wasn't you contacting me. I can't remember if you did or someone did about no, saying, "Hey, I just saw Phil Mogg or heard Phil Mogg being interviewed on the radio,"
Hmm.
and the guy said, "Is there any truth to John
Oh,
Sloman
someone brought it up. Wow.
to the Wild, Willing, and the Innocent?" And Phil said he couldn't remember.
On Wiki, again, Wiki is either true or false, but you are actually on there showing uncredited. Your name and
Wow,
uncredited.
well,
Yeah.
that's nice. Fair play.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I think I'll change my name to uncredited.
You'll get a lot of play that way, John.
My middle name, yeah, John Uncredited Sloman of somewhere.
Oh my. All right, let's get to your solo work. How did you get Todd Rundgren to produce your album? And I have to say, I was just cranking it in the car. Disappearance can be deceptive. I love, love, love Breathless. Love it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my, that's so great R&B. Great falsetto from you on it, dude. I mean, I
Oh,
really,
thank you.
really, really, real John. It's a home run.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, a lot of those songs were written quite soon after I left Heap. In '81, Breathless was demoed, as a matter of fact,
Wow.
as was Save Us, Part in Line, and Breathless started out like this. It started with piano originally. That's
Hmm.
how I wrote it, and I can't even remember the bloody thing, but uh,
Yep, yep.
it was that driving kind of thing, and I demoed it with Chris Slade, as a matter of fact, at Rock City, and Savers started. That was on piano originally, but when I came to do the actual album of Disappearances, bit by bit, my original my original piano parts were replaced
Oh,
by
it's
everything.
a driving song, you know. It
Yeah, but
really
yeah,
it
yeah.
moves.
And out of all the ones on Disappearances, Breathless is definitely one I do, now.
Oh, you
And
still.
say, yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
would,
great.
no, I would do a version of that because I know it still could be contemporary, it could still be
Absolutely.
worked into a contemporary thing, as could, that Save Us, the big ballad. There's a
Well,
way of doing it as
again,
well.
I'm whoever's going to watch this show. It's a lot of John's stuff. I think most of his solo stuff is on iTunes and Spotify. Go out and search it and make the first song "Breathless," and I think you'll be hooked and enjoy everything else that John's doing. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be an advocate for you, my man, for that album alone.
Okay,
It's so
thank you.
great,
Yeah, thanks,
so
Paul.
great.
Yeah. John uncredited Sloman. Yeah,
So how
yeah.
did Todd Rundgren get into your
Yeah, well,
universe?
I was signed to EMI, and I I they give you a list. It's all so bloody labored. It's back to that thing of why not just do the album at home, and not have to travel across the Atlantic to somewhere, some other studio. But it had to be done in a big, big way because I was signed to a big, big record label.
Yeah,
Well, they were sending me all these producers, and I was having meetings with them, and I can't stand all that meetings for meetings' sake. And I then went into the studio with one of these guys, and he kind of disappeared. He got to about midnight, and we were mixing, and he said, I'll go out, I'll be back in a second," and he didn't come back. And I'm not going to say the guy's name, but it was the most bizarre thing. So after that, I went into EMI. I said, please, I need to find someone that's more in tune with what I'm doing. So, and I blurted out the name Todd Rundgren because he was such a hero of mine. I
Hmm.
said, look, I need someone like Todd Rundgren to be producing me, Pino was always saying to me, you should do it yourself. I should have, to be honest, but there you go. So anyway, a week went by, and I got a call from the A&R guy, and he said, I'm in New York at Bruce Garfield's office in New York at Epic. I beg your pardon that I've just changed labels there. Maybe I was hoping that it was Epic. And I've got Todd with me, and he wants to do the album. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. It was probably, I've only been that happy once, maybe twice since. Um, yeah, twice. And it was incredible. And if Todd Rundgren ever sees this, that's how much it meant to me to get him to produce my album. And it was just incredible. And I got the news, and it was early hours of the morning. And I just remember jumping around my apartment, just whooping like a lunatic. And then yeah, went out to meet him a couple of weeks later and stayed with him. And he played me some. He played one of the songs that was going to be on a cappella the following year, Pretending to Care. He played that in his kitchen, and it just blew me away. It was like, my God, I'm in Todd's bloody house here, and he's playing, one of the songs that no one's even heard yet. Wow, what a privilege. And yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, the,
Um,
the production on it's really, really good. It's still fresh as
but
they
I
would.
need to say that Todd did the original recordings. This is hard for me to talk about, but Todd produced an album, and there were some issues. And is it getting dark in here, or is it me?
It's going dark and light, dark and light. Do you have the light? Maybe the light. You want to put the light on behind you?
That's a mic stand. One sec.
Oh,
There's a mic. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm never more than 3 feet away from a mic stand ever in my life. So, um, yeah. So yeah, Todd. Um, he produced the original album, and the A&R guy came out to listen, and there were some reservations, and I had some too, as well. So, cut a long story short, Todd delivered an album as per, and the record label back in London rejected the album. That word rejected, you know,
mm,
as labels would do. And I wasn't happy with it either.
okay.
But it was something that I've never quite got over, to be honest with you, the disappointment of it. There were times where um, I thought, my God, I'm working with Todd Rundgren. We did the backing vocals together. That was an absolute blast. Right, this is fantastic. Todd and me singing together. It was just amazing. But the overall thing, I Todd pushed it in a more poppy direction,
Yeah.
and the songs I'd already written had kind of pop vibes to them. They were hooky choruses and stuff. And I, what I was looking for was the Todd that did War Babies, Hall and Oates, where he took their pop kind of stuff and put little twists in the middle, like Is It a Star? Dun, dun. I don't know if you've heard War Babies, but it's an amazing album from '75. And there's a breakdown in the middle where Todd plays this amazing solo, and it goes off though. It's rock and roll suddenly, and I wanted. It's not that I even wanted that. I possibly quite naively expected him to do that because I thought, well, that's what Todd will do.
Right.
But what was happening? He was. He, I didn't. What he was being a producer. I was thinking, well, Todd's going to he's going to say, yeah, this needs to be more this way, it needs to be more experimental, go off this way, because Todd can do anything. I thought, God, it's going to be amazing. Todd's going to be saying, let's push it here, let's push it this way, and push. But instead, it was more like gathering it in a bit more. Hey, let's make that bit a bit more. I said, I remember kind of having a meeting of minds, if you like, with him one day and saying, because he wanted to do a song of mine that was already poppy, but to do it like a man eater, whole
Okay.
notes. He wanted us to swing it like that, but
Doom, 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 doom,
and
doom,
again, it's
doom.
back to that thing of about feelings, where I wasn't ready yet to go. Like now, I would do a song like that because I've matured as a songwriter, dare I say, as a person.
Mhm.
And so now I would just say, well, hey, this is harking back to that great 60s period. But at that point, I was thinking, no, because Maneater had only been released like 2 years before.
Right.
And I thought, no, I don't want to do something that sounds like bloody Maneater. So it was stuff like that. And so I came back to London, and yeah, the record label formally rejected the album. And then with that, we had to wait for Todd to send the masters over. And Todd was I mean, obviously, by now he's already a legend of music and he's been here before. He knows how to deal with people like this. I'm sure he's had loads of moments with record labels,
Yeah.
not being happy or being happy, whatever. And and he had a good manager. I did not. And so, believe it or not, we actually we didn't record the whole thing from the ground up. We had to keep probably about half of it. We didn't strip it all the way down to the ground, but we probably took a lot of the stuff off and rebuilt it.
Okay.
And that, quite frankly, was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life because we were there and, you know, I was thinking, what the hell? I've done this album once. I'd been in, beautiful weather in Woodstock in the summer doing it. And now I'm in London and it's pissing down every day. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, the mood.
And it was awful. And I was a mess, to be honest with you. I was a mess by the time we finished it. And then a single was earmarked, Fooling Myself. That was going to be the single. Had artwork made up, blah, blah, blah. And my manager started pushing for us to try and get out of the record deal. He said, look, word on the street is that you could get another record deal if we just move away from EMI.
Mm.
And really? So we started, or rather he started this war with using some kind of Hegelian dialectic on the business affairs people at EMI to create basically a disagreement. And in the end, EMI dropped me.
Hmm.
And were there record labels waiting for me? No.
So you're at the bottom, starting up again.
Yep. And I did some stuff, but I was a bloody mess. I ended up on all sorts of prescription drugs. I went through a Brian Wilson period, quite frankly.
Wow.
I was on temazepam, I was on diazepam, all the PAMs. Hey, just one second, Paul. I'm just going to get my charger because my phone
Okay.
is about to die. Just one sec. I'll be right.
Okay. So the album itself got shelved. You made it in '84, right?
I did,
And
and yeah,
and it got shelved till '89.
no, it got what happened. The album was redone. I did it with Todd in '84.
Right.
Then it it was completed in early '85, and then it was shelved in '85.
Okay.
I then went off and did other bits and pieces, worked as just did stuff with other people. And
Now let me ask you, are you happy with the version that's out now that I'm listening to?
well,
Like I said,
yeah,
I personally as a listener,
yeah. Hey,
you
the
know?
thing is, Paul, I get I get lots of love, as they say,
Hmm.
about disappearances. The only reservation I have is because of the sheer hell I went through to
Right,
do the
right.
blood thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a happy memory. Yeah.
It was hell,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to come back from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all it is, and I mean it's kind of like a period piece, isn't it? Because I was listening to someone the other day talking about, in fact, it was Hans Zimmer talking about Fairlight using a Fairlight keyboard, and it was a big deal at that, and that was right at that very time when we remade the album, and we had a guy come in with with a Fairlight, and he was like someone coming in the studio with a Ferrari, because I think the things were about 60,000 quid to buy.
Right.
It's ridiculous, and all you got out of them was like dun dun dun, like big kind of brass stabs and stuff. They always sounded a trifle sudden to me, but there you go. I like a piano.
So now out of now it says now he did nine more solo albums after that. Is there anyone that you are happy with within those
Of
albums?
those solo albums, no, no, I really. What happened? Yeah, that was kind of like Dark Matter was really the first thing that I did where I thought, okay, it was after the way that the Disappearances was done,
Yeah.
and it was so kind of messy in every way that I was determined just to do something a bit more concise, stripped down, and maybe something that was more contemporary. So I yeah, it was done in 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops, top to bottom, mixed, done. And that was great. And then I did another, whatever it was, 8 albums after
Yeah,
that.
13 stories.
Yeah, 13 stock. Well, that happened when unfortunately, my young brother died unexpectedly, in 1999. And it just kind of changed everything,
Mm.
just changed everything. He was very, like I say, he's 33, and he was a very fit guy and went to the gym and what have you. And he died, and everything changed. Everything changed in our family, and it changed everything about what I wanted to do, really. I'd already been striving, to write about more kind of personal things. And 13 Stories. I'd done a little bit of that on Dark Matter, but then 13 Stories, I really then decided, okay, I'm gonna write from the heart now about myself and what happens, what I see in the world. I'm not going to do generic rock stuff anymore, and which has meant that I've kind of dropped off the edge of the world in a lot of people's eyes, but artistically, it's been really satisfying. And 13 Stories was just about growing up in Wales.
Mm.
That's really what it was. It's an acoustic thing, and recorded it at home. And yeah, it was it was the start of something else. It was the start of the New Testament. If I can put it like that.
Right. Right.
And then I've just done everything else at home.
And you got a call from Praying Mantis too, right? In 2003 to guest
Yeah,
on.
that was unexpected. Again, I think that was that 99 or 2000.
It says
Yeah,
2003, The Journey Goes On.
okay. But yeah, I
So you
did.
might have
I
probably
did.
you probably did your vocals in 2002, possibly then.
Yeah, it would have been. I knew Dennis from way back, Dennis Stratton. I used to run into him at the at the place in Soho where everyone used to go. You know, the Ship, this bar. So yeah, when Dennis called me, it was kind of like, yeah, that sounds really fun to do. Um, and they wanted me to do more. I think I did two. Did I do two
Three
tracks or
tracks.
three? Three. They
Tonight,
wanted me to do
Beast
more.
Within, and The Voice you did.
Right. Well, yeah, they wanted me to do more, but I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to get involved. Again, it was that thing of I didn't want to get involved with a band. They wanted me to go to Japan with them.
And play.
Yeah,
Wow.
at that
That would have
point.
been
But
nice.
yeah, well, again, this is under the heading of things possibly I should have done.
Yeah.
But
Because Gary
I,
Barney gave it a go, and they it wasn't that. I love Gary Barney, but I heard Gary Barney wasn't a good fit for them.
yeah, I haven't heard that, but yeah, I just didn't want to get in a band because sometimes you can accidentally end up in a band.
Yeah.
Where, oh God, and now you're thinking, damn, how do I get out of this? You know, and because that's really I'm so focused now into doing my own stuff, and I found my voice, and I'm just not that guy that was a voice for hire anymore. I can do that thing. I can still do that stuff. I did it literally a few weeks ago in Pino's brother's restaurant where we all jammed. So, my voice is there, but I just, I like conceptualizing ideas and doing a whole album.
You sang "Who Wants to Live Forever" on the Highlander soundtrack. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, yeah, that was because I knew these guys that they were a great band, the band called the Gutter Brothers, and in London. And the guitar player was Chris Court, and he just called up one day and said, "Hey, do you want to sing on a feature film?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" And he said, "Well, it's a reimagining or whatever they call it of the Highlander thing."
Hmm.
And at first I was really I wasn't sure I should do it because Freddie Mercury is so loved. And I thought, oh my God, am I going to be the guy now that Queen fans hate as well as Heat fans? You know what I mean? I thought this is not,
And
it's
that's and
not.
that's and that's up there, John. Those vocals are up there too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I just thought, shit, should I do this? So anyway, Chris persuaded me to do Prince of the Universe first.
Right.
And then I think it was maybe and there was another one. No, Who Wants to Live Forever? Ever I did secondly, and then if Chris asked me to do It's a Kind of Magic, and I said I don't like It's a Kind of Magic. I really don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's so Freddie, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Who
And
Wants to
I
Live
thought,
Forever? That's epic. That's an epic, epic
yeah, it's an
song.
epic tune. So, but anyway, Chris said, look, we're going to do these songs differently, though. So please don't think that, you're going to come across like trying to be Freddie. And I said, oh, thank God for that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, because again, people love what they love.
And are very
And
judgmental.
yeah, well, hey, I was one of those judgmental rock fans. When I heard that Gillan had left Purple, I just thought, oh, forget it.
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell? They can't do anything now. And then, you hear Glenn Hughes has joined, and this guy, David Coverdale. Well, Glenn Hughes is great. I know that. And then you hear Byrne, and you go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe, maybe they got something as
Right,
well.
right,
But I do know how to, yeah, rock fans especially, they like what they like.
right.
And so I respect that. And I didn't want to be the guy that Freddie's fans were coming out after, because no, I didn't need that much. I didn't need that much hatred.
Now, are you
But yeah,
happy? Are you happy with that? How that came out?
it's okay. To be honest, it's okay. It's not really. Again, I'm. You'll very rarely hear me say, "Oh yeah, I think I was really good on that." It's more. I'm the guy who sat there thinking, "What the hell did I do that for?" What have I done? Oh my God. And people, of course, who might hate what you've done, they think you're riding around on a big white charger with big white gauntlets on and a flaming fedora or something with a feather in. Oh, I'm amazing. When really you're at home with a beer going, what did I do that for? You know? Because you're that rock fan,
Yeah,
you're that rock fan.
right.
You're the same as them. And whenever I talk to any people that come to the gigs, I'm always saying, I'm a rock fan. I'm exactly the same as you
Yeah.
guys. There's no
And the
distance.
worst part about the internet now, everybody can say what they feel and what they think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's good because I'd rather someone say it to my face as well. I really would because then you've got some right to reply.
Yeah,
you know, that, well, actually, the reason why I did, or whatever, as opposed to this kind of third party hatred
right.
that can go on.
So
Yeah.
now, so now let's get to your latest thing,
Oh,
vaudeville.
yeah.
Now this, now
Yeah.
we consider this a concept album,
Oh,
John.
we would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the things I've done are
And now we're
unashamed.
coming full circle to how you were born, what was going on,
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
vaudeville stuff as a
Exactly.
child, and now you're
Yeah,
creating this album. So let's talk
exactly.
about
And,
that.
and, and, and it was, I didn't put that um, I didn't put that on the sleeve notes. But sometimes you're writing things and you don't actually know what you're writing sometimes. You're just kind of getting stuff out. And then when I did the title track, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm putting stuff in here about childhood. And that's why there's that kid voice that I do. I'm only 6 now,
Yeah,
hey, baby. And that's me, when I'm doing vaudeville songs. And so it's a place and it's a state of mind, really. That's really what I'm talking about with vaudeville. And the idea was to do it live with like a great band, like kind of a Zappa type band, people that can play any kind of style of
yeah,
music. And I still may do that. Um, and yeah, again, it's almost like everything I've ever done has this kind of journey to it. Other than the music, there's always a story around, the aggravation of getting the damn thing
yeah,
done. And in the case of vaudeville, I originally was going to do with this label Red Steel, the guys who had done Two Rivers, and I like the guy very much who runs Red Steel, and there was nothing personal. It's just that I just felt that I felt like he'd wasted some of my time leaving me hanging there, waiting to put vaudeville out when it had been ready for a year. And I'm not a young guy anymore. If I was 30, you lose a year waiting, sitting on. I do not like sitting on things that I've completed. I
right.
just don't like it. I'm a nightmare. If I finish it Tuesday, I want to put it out on Wednesday. And
Gotcha.
people say, John, you can't do that. You got to do a bit of marketing. Okay, but I, I appreciate it. I do need to kind of hold my horses. But a year, it was just I just couldn't accept it. And so we parted company, unfortunately, and I put it out myself. Um, so, but I've had amazing responses from it,
So
and
are you happy with this?
yes, you're saying it like, for God's sake, are you happy with this already?
We did it, folks. We did it.
Yeah, stop it. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we did. Yeah, you finally got me to say I'm happy with it. And but I promise you, my other half will tell you that I'm always just, yeah, it's okay,
Yeah.
but something could be better, and that could be. But I'm sure everyone really that does this
Yeah,
is
I love Ice
is
Cream
like,
Man. I thought that's a
Oh,
great
cool.
track. Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate that. I like the narration going on in it. Yeah.
Great.
It's really I listened to it when I was able to stream it. I put it on in my iTunes and I
Sure.
listened to yeah, and I listened to the whole thing through. I didn't like stop and listen to a track. I listened the way through, and it's really great. Great album.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. Well, I just had to get it out there.
Yeah,
And in the end, I thought, well, I just got to do it myself. And I've got
that's how I
my,
bought it. I bought it through you. So
yeah,
as you can
thank
see,
you.
if you guys are you still doing it that way, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you see
Yeah.
there's the man right there, and there's his signature right there. He signs it for you also.
Yeah, sure. I still have, I've still got vaudeville and, if anyone wants to hear Two Rivers as well, you know.
Awesome.
But later this year, I've got stuff coming out. So I've done a whole, it's kind of like a rock version of not of Tubular Bells, but something like Tubular Bells, in as
Oh,
much as
okay.
it's two what would have been two sides of continuous music. But it's
Please come back on to promote that when that goes on.
yeah. Well, I'll drop you a line, Paul, because that'll be before the end of the year.
Awesome.
I'll be putting that out. You know,
And performing wise, are you doing gigs? What's the story with you that gig wise?
that's that's what I am chomping at the bit to do now, and I've done a lot of acoustic gigs, just solo acoustic, and that's I really enjoy that. What happened? I moved back here in January, and I've just been doing up the house whilst working on this other project as well, and I'm writing another book, and so I've always got two things at least going on musically or creatively, I should say. But I've been working on the house, painting and stuff like
And
that,
everything's
you
good
know.
health wise. Are you great health wise? Everything good is good that
I
way.
am now. But a few years back, unfortunately, I did have like a bit of um, and it cost me because I had some gigs, really nice gigs in London that I had to cancel.
Hmm.
And it hit my confidence, you know. I mean, singing, live performing is a confidence thing.
Right.
So oh, there you go. I've no idea why I'm going dark all the time, by the way. This is very bizarre. I'm not
Yeah, it's
just,
real.
I'm
The
going.
the
So,
first half of us was everything good, and all of a sudden started doing that. I don't know.
yeah, sorry about this, folks.
That's
If you're
fine.
watching this, trust me, I'm not doing this.
That's right. Listen. This is an epic episode. I think we're at the 3 hour mark, John.
Wow. Hey, I'm sorry. All I can say is I'm sorry if I've kind of gone on too long, you know?
No, listen. I always ask my guests, and it's true. I say, how much time do I have with you? And they go, 30 minutes, an hour, 2.5
Right.
hours later.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because they say, hey, listen, if you have something to say, I'm not going to interrupt you. First of all,
No, and you didn't. And you're good at it, by the way, Paul. You're
thank
good. You
you,
had a good interview. So
thank you.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to get your story out. That's the whole purpose of me doing the show. Because
Yeah.
I said, John, I got sick of seeing people and it's scripted, and they don't know who
Yes.
you are, and they just know
Yeah.
about the single or what's going on. And I got really sick of seeing interviews that sucked.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
giving that person, like say,
Yeah.
like I don't know if I'll ever get John Sloman again. So at this moment, I want all of John Sloman. That's how I feel
Yeah.
about when I
Well,
get my guests.
I can tell you, you got most of him. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Same thing.
The whole
And
John uncredited Sloman.
so listen, so if people got to watch you in sections or whatever, fine by me. But
Oh
at least
yeah, they might have to.
I enjoyed you for what it was. I really appreciate you being on, John. Honestly,
Thank you, Paul. I really enjoyed doing this. I
thank
really
you,
appreciate it.
thank you.
My trip back across, well,
Memory lane, as they say.
decades. Okay.
And
All right.
how's the throat? Your vocals, everything good with the throat?
In good shape. Yeah. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, that's what I've been doing. I've been working on getting my voice in shape again. And I'm going to do some stuff locally first. But there's some talk of me doing something in Finland,
Okay.
which is really, that was what was going to be happening the year before last. I was going to be doing vaudeville
So
with
now let me
finished
ask you
music.
this: Are you keen to doing session work with other people? Say like someone that really admires you, that would like to
Yeah,
have you on a track.
yeah,
Will you be
yeah.
able to do that?
Yes, yeah. Thanks for saying that because I'm sorry I've gone dark again. Yeah, thanks for asking because this is something that I don't quite understand what's happened here. Because as much as I stepped away from the business, I it's as if I vanished.
Mhm.
There's just um, no one ever even mentions me, and this is it's the most bizarre thing. And sometimes I have to go, wait a minute, let me go and check this, check through the arc. I
Am
did
I
do
still
that trick
here?
back then. Yeah, and I mean, I'm still in good shape. Like what exactly is going on?
Yeah.
So, and I was saying to my other half the other day that I often wonder why I don't seem to get asked to do anything.
Mm.
Now, I'm not discounting the possibility that I may not be any good.
No,
So
stop.
it could no, but I'm not. I am that guy who will say that to
Well,
himself.
you know what is John. You know what is John too. You have to promote yourself, my man. You really
Yes,
have
I
to
know.
get out there and you say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I could do this."
Yeah,
And
no,
now, and pretty much
I've never
You're doing it
walked
right
in.
now.
Yeah, okay. But I've never walked in a room and introduced myself. I don't think I've ever done it in my life. Hey, I'm him. I'm John uncredited.
Right.
So I've never done it. I've just never done it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I have been asked way, way, way back,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, hey, if anyone wants to work with me, drop me a line.
So let's plug some things. Do you have a website?
It's coming.
Okay.
It's
So
being put
do you have an
together right
Instagram?
now. No.
Okay.
I did have WhatsApp. I had to take WhatsApp off my phone to put Zoom on it.
Right, right.
So
You need more storage, my man.
I yeah, I
That's
know.
another issue, everybody. So John, honestly, the hottest things at the moment is Instagram, and I caught you, and the same thing. I started the show, and it's funny to say we go back full circle. I'm dear friends with Neil Carter.
Right.
And Neil was my first guest. He was my prototype to start doing this
Ah,
stuff.
okay.
And I started using Neil, and the only way I'm getting everybody is I was DMing, I was going through Facebook, finding somebody, adding and seeing the message, and I would attach the link to see like I'm legit, I'm actually doing this. I'm not some schmo saying, "Hey, can I talk to you for an hour?" And I want to legitimize myself, so that's what I started doing, and that's why I'm 22 episodes in. And again,
Right,
I'm such an admirer. I am an admirer. I know I'm not bullshitting you. I really enjoyed your past of your music, and
right,
now I see that you're a very sweet person, as it is too, and it just gives me joy that I was able to reach out and everybody, if you want at the moment, if you want to speak to John and you want to get vocal work from him, direct message him through Facebook, John Sloman. He's the legit guy. He's the real guy, he'll and thank God he answered me. And we were back and forth for a few things, and we finally got on now. And now you can reach out to John too, and even compliment him or say his music sucks. Just let him know how you feel about this man, because obviously he don't know, you don't think he exists anymore.
no.
And I hope, and listen, John, there's things called GoFundMe and stuff like that. And
Yeah, yeah,
if you have
yeah.
John Sloman, I'm saying that if you want to get the vaudeville thing in production and
Yes.
stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah.
there's ways of doing it, man. You can get people
Yeah, there are.
credited.
Yeah.
You can make a live album DVD out of it,
Well,
and
that was the idea. That was the idea. And the idea still is
yeah,
to put a band together and do some not a tour, of course not, but some nice gigs
right,
and record them.
right.
Record
Or
them.
do
Put
like a
out
type of
live.
a residency somewhere, and maybe do three
Yeah,
nights or 5 nights.
exactly. Some a
Yeah,
nice venue, nice sound, easily controllable
absolutely.
space. And yeah, so that's what I want to do. And then when this other thing comes out later in the year, I'm going to do the same with that. You know.
So the same thing now. I think I bought vaudeville through the website. So the website, how are they able to buy your material now, John? Through your direct message, ask you.
Yeah, people would just direct. It's very low tech, really. Just direct message me,
Okay,
and then I just say, well, hey, send me your address, and I'll send you a PayPal
great.
thing.
That's the way to
I've
do
just
it.
been, a link. So I've just been doing that, and all I'm ever doing is working on stuff here. And
But
I've got.
honestly, your wife even listen. I'll if even if I can help you, John, to create an Instagram page for you, honestly, if I can help you in any way, my man, I'm there for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. I
Absolutely,
appreciate it. Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so listen, this has been an epic journey with an epic man through his life. And like I said,
Thank you.
please, this is a great album. And the stuff, even if you don't want to buy it, then go on iTunes and Spotify. Look up John Sloman. Look at the history. Listen to the Uriah Heep Conquest album, which is phenomenal. Listen to the Gary Moore live in Japan. Listen to this man, and you can appreciate what he's done for us in the music business. He's truly one of the greats that should get more recognition than I believe you didn't get, John. Honestly,
Well, thank you.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
So I want to thank everybody for being here, John. I want to thank you again. Don't go anywhere. I want to say goodbye to you
No,
properly.
I won't.
So
Sure.
everybody, thanks again. This was Hard Rock History. Please follow us on Hard Rock History Show on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I'm going to start a TikTok. So see, John, four things we try to get to spread the word.
Okay. Point taken.
All right, everybody. And I also say, have a great day. Thank you for being here. Period, and always rock on. Thank you so much.